My daughter-in-law insisted on going abroad to become a temple maiden. Why pay for male escorts when you can get men for free as a temple maiden? I warned her that temple maidens abroad are just pitiful temple prostitutes, and if they become pregnant, they are considered unclean and executed on the spot. My daughter-in-law was so intimidated by me that she obediently stayed in my home, living like a wealthy widow. Unexpectedly, her classmate made a huge success overseas and even came to our house to show off, bringing 4 or 5 husbands along. Convinced that I was the one holding her back from a good life, my daughter-in-law shoved me off the balcony to my death, then inherited my substantial fortune. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my daughter-in-law was yearning to become a saint. The curse words were still stuck in my throat when my daughter-in-law's big face thrust itself right in front of me. Mom, why don't you come abroad with me and become a holy maiden? Hiring male models costs your own money, but as a holy maiden, you can freeload forever. In that instant, overwhelming hatred nearly swallowed me whole. My daughter-in-law had said the exact same thing in the previous life. After I refused, she gave me a sympathetic look. The conservative mindset of your generation is really sad. The man has been dead for so long. There's no need to give up your happiness and stay a widow for him, but with all those crow's feet at the corners of your eyes. Even if you went, no man would want you. You might as well stay put in the country, use work as an excuse to keep busy, and pretend to be a strong independent woman. Those few sentences hit several of my sore spots with precision, but for the sake of her being my daughter-in-law, I still took the initiative to reason with her using examples, hoping to give up the idea of going abroad to play the saint. But not long after, her classmate returned from abroad, bringing 4 or 5 men to her home as guests, showing off how gentle and considerate each of her husbands was toward her. My daughter-in-law completely broke down, resenting me for causing her to miss what she saw as a God-given opportunity. She cruelly pushed me off the balcony to my death, but in reality, after marrying my son, my daughter-in-law quit her job to become a full-time housewife. After my son passed away, I sent her 100,000 yuan a month for pocket money, all of which she spent on hiring male escorts to ease her loneliness. I never meddled too much. I even treated her like my own daughter, wrote my will in advance, and left all my property to her, but I never expected that in the end, she would cause my death for the sake of a man. Now that I've been given another life, the first thing I do is return to the bedroom and tear up the will. My daughter-in-law asked me what I was tearing up. I smiled faintly and replied, just a mistake I made when I was out of my mind. She didn't think much of it and instead tested the waters by asking if I wanted to go abroad with her to become a holy maiden. This time I volunteered. I'm already old and not as welcomed as the young. If you want to go, I can help pay for your plane ticket. My daughter-in-law immediately grabbed my hand in pleasant surprise, saying, Mom, I knew you were the most generous mother-in-law in the world. Beaming with joy, I said, you must call me the moment you arrive abroad. My daughter-in-law let go of me warily. Mom, you wouldn't change your mind at the last minute and try to become a saintess, would you? But there's only one spot, and compared to me, you don't stand a chance. You'd better just work hard and earn money. Look at my dear daughter-in-law, so afraid that I might compete with her. I shook my head and gave her false hope. Mom wants to wait until you find a bank, then send you more money so you don't suffer when you get there. My daughter-in-law gave me a tight hug. Mom, just wait, I'll bring you 7 or 8 new sons to take care of you. I agreed with relief and immediately booked her a flight departing in 3 days, afraid she might change her mind. Without me standing in the way this time, I really want to see if you can live that good life surrounded by a flock of husbands. But I didn't expect an accident to happen right before we set off. To my surprise, my best friend actually took the initiative at the dinner table to persuade her daughter-in-law to give up going abroad, saying, the so-called holy maidens are just a whitewashed version of temple prostitutes abroad. They have no human rights at all, and if they become pregnant, they're deemed impure and executed on the spot. You absolutely must not go. Her words were exactly the same as mine in my previous life. I was truly afraid her daughter-in-law might be convinced by her, but her daughter-in-law, who was desperate to go abroad, wouldn't listen to a word she said. Auntie, stop talking. I know you must have wanted to go abroad long ago to become a holy maiden and find a dozen husbands to enjoy life. It's just a pity that you're past your prime. Even if you went, you'd definitely be eliminated. My best friend looked at me in disbelief. Is there something wrong with your daughter-in-law's head? She has such dangerous thoughts and you're not doing anything about it. I lowered my head and smiled bitterly. I can't control this ancestor. I smiled and raised my glass to smooth things over. Young people always have their own ideas, and I support them unconditionally. My daughter-in-law immediately lifted her chin triumphantly. See, Auntie, You only know all this because you've systematically looked into it out of interest, right? Those claims online are all lies, meant to keep others from discovering the benefits of the saintess, but I was born with eyes that can tell right from wrong. I almost couldn't hold back my laughter and had to cough several times to steady myself. My daughter-in-law is still the smartest one. My best friend couldn't help but reproach me. Shaolian, how could you just stand by and watch her jump into the fire pit? My daughter-in-law couldn't take it anymore and slammed the table. Enough, my mom has already bought my plane ticket. Once I've gathered the 7 most high-quality handsome men from abroad, I'll be sure to send you a photo first to rub it in your face. My best friend fell silent. I thought she had given up trying to persuade my daughter-in-law, but while I was doing the dishes, she secretly cancelled the ticket. I stood in front of the check-in counter, and when I realized even the flight ticket record had been deleted, I felt like the sky was falling in an instant. My daughter-in-law slammed the luggage onto the ground. Mom, you're pretty good at playing this two-faced game. That day, Aunt Lynn was also someone you deliberately brought in to put on a double act, wasn't she? Do you have to make me live like a widow for your son? Her voice was so loud that it immediately drew the attention of many people. I urged her to lower her voice and offered to buy her a new ticket, but my daughter-in-law kept shouting loudly, "Your son has been dead for 2 years. What right do you have to stop me from seeking new happiness? You just can't stand to see me happy." Everyone around me was pointing fingers, saying, "This mother-in-law is way too controlling. Does she really think it's ancient times, where a daughter-in-law has to remain a widow and serve her for life? She still calls you Mom out of kindness and loyalty. Does she really think she's her real mother?" My daughter-in-law covered her face and sobbed, but I could already see the smug smile curling at the corners of her mouth. I immediately decided to buy her a first-class ticket at a high price. "All right, go ahead and play the saint abroad. My kindness is wasted on you." The daughter-in-law immediately stopped crying, placed her luggage on the conveyor belt, and began checking in. The crowd that had been watching in astonishment was now utterly shocked. An outgoing little girl asked what a holy maiden meant. As the daughter-in-law put away the plane tickets, she laughed at her. "Anyone can tell you're a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world. A holy maiden is a goddess who lives in a temple and can lawfully enjoy any high-quality man. Once I get there, I can have a harem for free. As for you women who can only spend your lives with one man, you can just secretly envy me." The little girl's mouth fell open in surprise. "Isn't that just a temple prostitute?" The daughter-in-law instantly flew into a rage. "Watch your mouth. If you've got the guts, go curse those fickle men. What kind of skill is it to just insult women?" The young girl was quite unconvinced and had to talk back to her. "That's nothing but a scam. How could anyone be foolish enough to believe it?" The daughter-in-law raised her hand and slapped her across the face. "Once I become the saintess, you won't even be worthy of speaking to me. And you still dare call me a fool? What saintess? She's clearly nothing but a free whore." The commotion of the two pulling each other's hair finally attracted the air marshal. I sensed something was wrong. She quickly pulled her daughter-in-law away and urged her to go check in for the flight, but before she could leave, the female air marshal had already walked up quickly and said, "Hello, I heard that your purpose for going abroad is to become a saint. As a police officer, I want to advise you to give up such an unrealistic idea." The daughter-in-law wanted to hit the police officer, but she didn't dare, so she could only push me in annoyance. "It's all your fault for not booking my flight in advance. Now you've attracted all these idiots." The young girl stood indignantly in front of me. "Everyone's doing this for your own good. Why are you so stubborn?" My daughter-in-law picked up her luggage and turned to leave. The female air marshal once again blocked her way. "Ma'am, I'm not joking with you. Your purpose for this trip is very dangerous. Please abandon the idea, and I will help you process a refund for your ticket." The daughter-in-law stomped her foot in fury. "You cops are all crazy, aren't you? What does it have to do with you if I go abroad? I haven't broken any laws. I'm just concerned for your personal safety. No need. Even if I run into danger abroad, I wouldn't need you domestic cops." The daughter-in-law's expression was contemptuous, as if she had already become a lofty saint, looking down on every blade of grass and tree in her home country. The female police officer wanted to say more, but the daughter-in-law had already strode away. As the crowd dispersed, I gave the young girls some money as compensation. Remember never to forget the importance of letting go of the urge to save others and respecting their own fate, otherwise, you might easily become the protagonist of a revenge rebirth story in another tale. As I drove back, I felt the air had become fresh. The daughter-in-law posted a status update just before the plane took off, with the caption, "Country Y, your most beautiful saint is about to arrive." I smiled, but when I scrolled down to see another recent update, I suddenly stopped smiling. My best friend was actually on the same flight to country. Why? No wonder she secretly cancelled her ticket even after getting scolded by her daughter-in-law. She's terrified that her daughter-in-law will snatch away the Saintess spot. I quickly stopped the car and hurriedly called my best friend's husband. Lu Xiao remained completely unaware, yet just as the words about my best friend's whereabouts were about to leave my lips, I thought of myself in the previous life, well-intentioned, only to be cruelly betrayed. I suddenly dare not tell the truth. Having lived again, I cannot learn to seek gains and avoid losses only from my daughter-in-law, so I hang up the phone and count every minute's change on my watch. By the time the plane lands, night has just fallen. I quickly dialed my best friend's number. Are you playing the saint too? She let out a disgusted roar. Mind your own business. Tell Lu Xiao to stop calling me. I want to dissolve our marriage immediately. Don't let it get in the way of me embracing my new husband. Hearing her say that with my own ears still shocked me, but I chose to respect everyone's fate. But in the early hours of the morning, my daughter-in-law suddenly sent an urgent message. Did you ask that old Lin woman to ruin my plans? She dared to disfigure me. If I don't become the holy maiden because of her, I'll make sure neither of you survives. I was instantly wide awake, driven by years of friendship. I immediately called my best friend to find out what was going on. Unlike last time, there was no trace of annoyance or impatience. This time, when my best friend answered the phone, she was so weak that even speaking a single sentence left her gasping for breath several times. Book me a flight back home, please, I'm begging you. Without a second thought, I booked the tickets immediately. As long as my best friend is willing to come to her senses and turn back, I'm still willing to trust her one more time. But my best friend never boarded that flight to return home. Lu Xiao and I waited at the airport until the crowd dispersed, but we still didn't see any sign of her. Lu Xiao immediately called the police. However, since she was abroad and there was no solid evidence proving she was actually in danger, the police couldn't easily intervene. Amid all these constraints, Lu Xiao decided to go abroad himself to bring his best friend back. Just as he bought the plane ticket, his best friend called again. This time, her voice sounded even weaker. I'm sorry, could you help me book a return ticket home? I immediately pressed further. What kind of danger have you gotten yourself into? My best friend sighed. And immediately after, the sound of something heavy hitting the floor came from her end. Lu Xiao and I both held our breath. The next second, my best friend had already regained her energy and roared at us with full force. Didn't I tell you not to call me? Are you just jealous that I can have so many husbands at once? Lu Xiao's face turned a mix of green and white. I sensed something was wrong and was more inclined to believe that my best friend was being coerced in some way. When we were kids, I often called my best friend to sneak out and play. Back then, to avoid being caught by our parents, we set up secret signals between us. I would say, the stars are so bright tonight. If it's not convenient for my bestie to talk, just reply, the moonlight is beautiful too. We've used this move no less than 100 times. There's no way my bestie would forget. I gripped my phone tightly, holding on to hope, and tentatively said the code word. The stars are so bright tonight, but my bestie just snapped back irritably. You must be sick or something. It's daytime here. Then came the sound of kissing and a man's low panting. Anyone with half a brain could tell what her so-called best friend was doing. I stared blankly at the phone screen, still on the call-ended interface. If it weren't for the same voice, I would have thought the person talking to me wasn't my best friend at all. I'm betting on decades of friendship between us. I believe that even if my bestie went completely mad, she would never curse me like this. Lu Xiao angrily stomped out his cigarette. Right now, she only has that wild man outside in her heart. She doesn't care about me or our son at all. Seeing him decisively cancel the plane tickets, I frowned. Aren't you worried she might be threatened by someone? But Lu Xiao walked out resolutely. Then it's still her choice to go abroad and get used by some foreigner for free. I'll just treat her as dead. Men are indeed unreliable. I quickly helped my best friend rebook her ticket, and decided that if she still didn't come back this time, I would go there myself no matter what to make sure she was safe. But plans always fall behind changes. On the day the plane was about to take off, my daughter-in-law actually called me, screaming hysterically, "Send me money right now. I want to hire someone to kill that old bitch Lin." She actually surpassed me to become the temple saintess. What right does she have? My heart skipped a beat. What did you say? My daughter-in-law said viciously. That bitch just got to the temple and slept with 7 or 8 men in one night. Sweet-talking them all into treating her like a goddess, but she won't be smug for long. I've lined up more people tonight. I'll definitely surpass her. I thought to myself. they must both be insane. In a moment of desperation, I told my daughter-in-law, find a way to put her on a plane back home. As long as she leaves, no one will be fighting you for anything. My daughter-in-law paused for a moment, then asked me to send her the flight information. I hesitated briefly, pixelated my best friend's personal details, and then sent it over. The moment I saw my best friend at the exit, the heavy stone hanging in my heart finally fell to the ground. After being apart for just a few days, my best friend looked extremely fragile, her face pale and drained of all color, yet she was clearly happy to see me. She hurriedly dragged her luggage out, but the moment she hugged me, her expression suddenly twisted. She slapped me hard across the face, shouting, "You're fucking insane. How many times have I told you to stay out of my business?" I was about to become a holy maiden. I covered my stinging cheek in disbelief. "Lin Yu, wake up, that's not a holy maiden, that's a temple prostitute. I really wish you would die right now." The hatred in her eyes was too shocking. I broke out in a cold sweat instantly. When my daughter-in-law pushed me off the balcony in my past life, she had the exact same look in her eyes, but I still suppressed my fear, grabbed her hand, and forcefully shoved her into the car. I made an appointment with the best psychologist in the city to treat her. At first, my best friend was very uncooperative, but just as the doctor was being insulted by her family for the 20th time, my best friend's cursing suddenly stopped. I watched her transform right before my eyes from a fierce expression to one of pitiful helplessness, without the doctor's reminder. I thought of a psychological disorder, schizophrenia. Then the friend with the normal personality tearfully told me a horrifying piece of news: "Be careful of your daughter-in-law, she has killed you twice." The psychiatrist's gaze darted back and forth between us in shock. I knew if I kept talking in front of him, I would be ordered to undergo psychotherapy too, so I offered to take my best friend home, to prevent her other personality from suddenly emerging and harming me. I still discussed it with her and tied her hands and feet to the bed. Only then did my best friend say through tears, "I'm sorry, I was reborn the night I cancelled Zhou Qing's plane ticket. Your death in the past life was all my fault." She told me that in the life I had forgotten, my best friend had a fit of misplaced compassion and secretly cancelled the plane ticket of my daughter-in-law. This led my daughter-in-law to misunderstand that I had never intended to let her go abroad from the very beginning, and she ended up hating me completely. Later, the daughter-in-law still managed to go abroad smoothly, missed the deadline for the Saintess selection, and used her body to get acquainted with a criminal gang leader. She brought that group back to the country, and the first thing she did was settle scores with me. "You were assaulted by more than a dozen men, and Zhou Qing just stood by watching. She even called me and made me listen to your voice." I called the police, but because those people were foreigners, they were only deported. Right before leaving, Zhou Qing pushed you off the balcony and killed you. I was so furious my whole body trembled. "Then how did you end up going abroad with her in this life?" My best friend cried and then burst into laughter. "I went to disfigure her. It's illegal to do it in the country, so I just played along and went abroad with her. That way, she would never catch the eye of the leader, let alone have the ability to bring people back to harm you." Was it all for me? I was so moved that words failed me. But thinking about what Zhou Qing said on the phone about my best friend sleeping with over a dozen men, my heart ached again. If it weren't for me, my best friend would never have gotten into trouble in this lifetime. But just as I held her tight, she fiercely bit my neck, as if trying to tear off a piece of flesh. "You jerk, let me go. Don't tell me you brought me back to the country because you have a crush on me, you sick creep." Startled, I stumbled back again and again. The flesh on my neck was already mangled and bleeding uncontrollably. I hurried to the living room to tend to the wound. My best friend was still shouting non-stop from the bedroom. "Let me go, I am the honored saintess. If you don't release me right now, I'll kill you." I turned a deaf ear to her yelling. Since she had already sacrificed so much for me, I had to cure her illness. I stopped the bleeding and wrapped the gauze properly before going back in. "Who exactly are you?" My best friend froze for a moment, then kicked and scratched at me. Only after exhausting herself did she collapse limply onto the bed. "I don't understand what you're saying." "Then I'll have no choice but to treat you as a dangerous personality." I called the psychiatrist right in front of her. My best friend quickly begged for mercy. "No, don't make me disappear, I'll tell you everything." I assumed a posture of listening attentively, but before she could speak, my daughter-in-law called again. She cursed loudly on the other end. "You old hag, where's the money you promised to send me? Are you dead or what? I'm done pretending. You've already found over a dozen new husbands, and you're still coming to me for money. I'm not your real mother." The moment I finished speaking, my daughter-in-law was slapped hard across the face. She cried out in pain, but still talk tough in front of me. Think it over, I'm a revered saint now. If you don't give me money, don't expect me to bring my husbands back to honor you in the future. I deliberately provoked her. Then you go ahead and enjoy your harem. I'll just amuse myself with some local male models. It costs money, but at least it's safe. I blocked her number and looked back at the bed, but somehow, my best friend had broken free and circled behind me, pressing scissors against my throat. Actually, I'm just a female ghost who jumped to my death. My obsession is to go abroad and become a saint. If you help me fulfill my dream, I'll leave your friend's body on my own. Otherwise, she'll be insane for the rest of her life, unable to control her own body. This sounded far too bizarre, but considering I had already been reborn, her words weren't entirely unbelievable. I asked her, "How can I trust your sincerity?" She smiled and said, "It's simple, you can just come with me. When the time comes, I won't come back, and you can personally tie me up and bring me back to the country." My heart raced, but for the sake of my best friend, I still closed my eyes and agreed. I booked 2 tickets for tonight, packed a few things casually, and drove with my best friend to the airport. On the way, I felt uneasy and wanted to use the excuse of going to the restroom to tell Lu Xiao that I was taking my best friend abroad, asking him to make sure to provide support from within the country. But before the text message could be sent, it was interrupted by a call from the psychologist. I had to answer the phone first. The doctor on the other end paused for a moment before finally speaking. "Hello, regarding your close friend. I'm afraid I must mention some unusual things to you." Frantic with anxiety, I brushed it off casually. "Talk later, I have something urgent right now," but the doctor insisted that I patiently hear him out. "I only have 2 things to say. First, based on my years of medical experience, I suspect your best friend's dissociative identity disorder is fake. Second, when she said that your daughter-in-law had killed you for 2 lifetimes, the polygraph light went on. She was lying. Do not believe her." At that moment, I was so shocked that I forgot to respond. Scenes of my best friend confessing the truth to me flashed back in my mind over and over. If the premise that I was killed across 2 lifetimes does not hold, it would mean that even though my best friend is also reborn, the so-called lifetime in which I was assaulted and died never existed at all. This would precisely explain why I have no memories of that lifetime, because it was a complete and utter lie. But why did my best friend lie to me? And could the lie detector used by the psychologist have been faulty? Before I could find an answer, my best friend suddenly spoke up from behind me. "Who are you calling?" I broke out in a cold sweat and quickly put away my phone. "Your husband. He called to ask if I had any news of you." My best friend squinted her eyes. "Do you two keep in touch often?" I shook my head. "Don't misunderstand. We have no contact at all in private." My best friend finally stopped pressing for answers and instead pulled me toward the parking lot. "Then let's hurry up and go. If we delay any longer, we'll miss the flight." Suddenly, a thought struck me. I forcefully knocked her down, quickly got into the car, and locked the doors. At that very moment, a strange suspicion arose in my heart. Perhaps my best friend had staged this whole act just to get me to willingly go abroad. She knows I would never believe the saintly act, but she will use my concern for her against me. If I hadn't asked my daughter-in-law to find a way to send her back, I would have already bought a plane ticket to go abroad. When she kept crying for help and secretly canceling my daughter-in-law's ticket wasn't out of saintly kindness. It was just to make her hate me, just like in the past life. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been meticulous enough to delete the purchase records as well. My best friend struggled to get up from the ground and frantically tugged at my car door. "Damn it, you lied to me. If you don't come abroad with me, I'll take your best friend's body and rot overseas forever. I'm never coming back." I rolled down the window expressionlessly. "That's your freedom. I don't want to be involved in your karma anymore." Then, to avoid any further trouble, I quickly drove away. My heart was racing the entire way. Before I could even calm down, my daughter-in-law started causing trouble again. She used an unfamiliar number to send me a message. "Mom, I'm coming back to China to see you right away." For a moment, I was utterly terrified. In this reincarnated life, they're practically scaring me to death. Why is it that one after another, they all want me dead? I couldn't figure it out no matter how hard I tried. Once home, I locked myself in my room, turned down all work, and didn't dare to go out at all. Yet at the same time, a lingering question still weighed on my mind. How exactly did my best friend from my past life die? Why would she go to any lengths to kill me? To find the answer, I contacted my best friend's mother. Aunt Jo had watched my best friend and me grow close over decades. Perhaps she would know the answer. "Hello, Auntie." I had only said one sentence when Aunt Jo started sobbing breathlessly. "Has Yaya gotten into trouble again?" I advised her back then not to marry Lu Xiao. There was never any love between them, forcing them to be together would never lead to a good end. Hearing this unexpected answer, my brow furrowed tightly. Aunt Zhou, what do you mean by that? Back then, Ye clearly told me that she and Lu Xiao truly loved each other. Aunt Zhou let out a long sigh. I've been feeling lately like I don't have much time left. I don't want to take some secrets to the grave. That child Ye has suffered too much. You're her good friend. After I'm gone, you'll be the only one who can help her. I comforted Aunt Zhou a bit and told her not to let her imagination run wild. She wouldn't listen at all, just kept talking to herself. Between the two of them, Ye's feelings for Lu Xiao were one-sided. The person Lu Xiao has always liked is you. I was completely dumbfounded, and even wondered if Aunt Zhou was losing her mind. Lu Xiao and I have never had any interaction at all, Aunt Zhou said. There is, but you just don't know. Back then, Lu Xiao wanted to pursue you through Ye, but Ye liked him, so she drugged him and got together with him, became pregnant with his child, and forced him to marry her. I never expected there to be such a twist, but that still doesn't explain why Lin Yu would be so fixated on wanting me dead, does it? Just as I was about to press further, Aunt Zhou quickly gave the answer. But who would have thought Lu Xiao was a domestic abuser? Ye was beaten by him for decades, and once she was even hospitalized from the beating, too afraid to show her face outside for over a month. I couldn't imagine that Lin Yu, such a strong-willed and outspoken person, would endure domestic violence for years and swallow her pride. But then I recalled that many years ago, Lin Yu indeed refused to see anyone for over a month. Every time I invited her out, she claimed she was sick, and when I offered to visit her at home, she was particularly resistant. At the time, I just thought it was inconvenient because her husband was home. I never imagined it was because of domestic violence. My breathing quickened. Why did Ye never tell me any of this? How did she manage to endure the beatings and grievances while glossing over everything and pretending to be happy in front of me? I desperately wanted to ask Lin Yu myself, but before I could finish talking with Aunt Zhou, a harsh static suddenly came from my phone, followed by a loud banging on the door from outside. My heart was pounding so fast it felt like it would leap out of my throat. I quickly tiptoed to the peephole and squinted to peek outside. My daughter-in-law was standing outside the door with disheveled hair, looking anxious. Mom, open up, I've escaped and come back. Please let me in to rest. I didn't dare open the door at all. Who knows how many shady people she brought back to the country to harm me. But before I could react, Lin Yu also appeared within the view of the peephole. They both smiled and waved at me. Open the door, you can't escape. I was so terrified that I let out a scream, not even having time to cover my mouth. Soon, I heard the sound of a key unlocking the door from outside. I then realized my one oversight. I had forgotten to take away my daughter-in-law's keys. I rushed back to the bedroom, locked the door tightly, and quickly dialed the police, but the phone signal mysteriously disappeared. Desperate, I huddled in the corner, hearing their footsteps drawing closer and closer. Forced to do so, I could only pick up that pair of scissors to defend myself. In a daze, I unexpectedly discovered that my experiences in this life eerily mirrored the previous life my best friend had fabricated. The same thing happened. After my flight was cancelled, my daughter-in-law set her sights on me, and the same thing happened when she returned to the country with a group of people to settle scores with me. But I didn't want the ending to be exactly the same as in the fabrication. I don't want to die, but the people outside simply wouldn't give me a chance to find a way to deal with it. They kicked the door open, and several burly men surrounded me with sinister grins on their faces. My best friend and daughter-in-law stood at the doorway, flashing me the same amused smiles. Just enjoy your karma. This is all you deserve. I wish I could jump out the window and end it all. I stared at them intently. Why must you treat me this way? My daughter-in-law said with a smile. You were the one who wanted me dead. When I asked you for money and begged you for help, why did you ignore me? If you hadn't let me go abroad back then, I wouldn't have ended up like this. She lifted her shirt, revealing a body covered in terrible scars. They were all beaten out of her by those men who forced her. But isn't she asking for it? Yet the daughter-in-law blames everything on me. Some holy virgin, my foot. She's nothing but a free temple prostitute. You knew the truth all along but didn't tell me. You just wanted to watch those greasy, disgusting men take advantage of me. I'll make you taste it too. After they've worn you ragged, I'll take all your money and buy your freedom. Those men's large hands were already reaching for me. I closed my eyes, my face ashen, and continued asking, what about you, Lin Yu? Why did you do it? Lin Yu stepped closer and told me with delight, it looks like you've already figured out that I don't have a split personality, so let me tell you, it's because I hate you. It's all because you're alive that Lu Xiao refuses to love me. In the previous life, after you died, Lu Xiao wept for you in grief. Do you know how much pain I felt when I saw him heartbroken over you? So what? I asked her sarcastically. Lin Yu shrugged her shoulders innocently. So I wanted to dirty you. Just like I made up in my story, that way Lu Xiao wouldn't love you anymore, and I wouldn't have to jump off a building in such despair. At that moment, my heart truly died. The close friend I had sincerely cherished for years turned out to be completely love-struck. Perhaps she hadn't reported the domestic violence she suffered for years, not because Lu Xiao threatened her, but because she was willing. She couldn't bear to part with Lu Xiao. It's utterly disgusting. Under their puzzled gazes, I slowly stood up from the corner of the wall, took out the walkie-talkie from my pocket, and said, "Thank you for cooperating with me and helping me uncover the truth. You can come out now." As soon as the words were spoken, over a dozen police officers with pistols drawn rushed out from another bedroom in my house and surrounded everyone. By the time Lin Yu and her daughter-in-law realized what was happening, they had already been handcuffed along with the group of large men. As I walked past my daughter-in-law, I let out a soft sigh. You got one thing right. I did want you to die abroad, but since you've come back on your own, now you'll face the legal consequences. Once you're out of prison, I'll take my time playing with you. Not that you'll ever get the chance. The daughter-in-law's eyes suddenly widened, but at the time she didn't understand what I meant. It wasn't until later that both she and Lin Yu were diagnosed with syphilis and HIV, within a few months. The two of them died together in prison. Come to think of it, all of this was thanks to the woman who, in the previous life, came to the daughter-in-law to show off about having multiple husbands. I could tell at a glance that she had a venereal disease. On second thought, how could such a filthy place possibly be clean? It's just that my daughter-in-law was completely blinded by the so-called holy life they boasted about, so she didn't see it at the time. In the past life, I saved your life, yet you caused my death. In this life, you will disappear by the very death you were so fixated on. As for Lin Yu, having a good best friend is fine, but being love-obsessed is not. If she has a next life, I hope she can wake up and see clearly. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. 1 second before registering my marriage with my boyfriend of 7 years, I packed up and ran away. He searched for me all over the world, and his family thought I was ungrateful. My parents also angrily scolded me for being foolish, saying I was giving up such a good man, but they didn't know I had been reborn. In my previous life, I ended up depressed because of this marriage. Given a second chance, I will never repeat the same mistakes. Ignoring Lu Ming's frantic shouts behind me, I fled the civil affairs office at the fastest speed of my life. Xiao Jin, what's wrong? Did something happen? He paid no attention to the strange looks from passers-by, his tone filled with nothing but anxiety and concern, but I only felt a chill run down my spine. The pedestrian signal at the intersection ahead began to flash. I took a deep breath and dashed across the street. The moment I stepped onto the opposite sidewalk, the light turned red. Instinctively, I glanced back and saw that Lu Ming hadn't made it across in time. The flow of traffic now separated us, keeping us far apart. The stream of cars was like a Milky Way separating the cowherd and the weaver girl. As a child, I always thought that Milky Way blocked the weaver girl's true love. It wasn't until I grew up that I finally realized that Milky Way was actually defending her freedom, and now, I am finally free too. I moved to a spot outside Lu Ming's line of sight and flagged down a taxi. All the way, I drove with the window down, letting the wind blow in. The exhaust fumes from the city traffic rushed toward me with the breeze, but I didn't mind at all. On my phone, calls, text messages, and WeChat notifications kept bombarding me relentlessly. Without even looking, I switched it to silent mode. I felt completely at ease, smiling into the sunlight and spring breeze. I even found it laughable to think that the exhaust fumes in the wind smelled sweet. As I smiled, a drop of scalding liquid fell onto the back of my hand. I just realized that I was actually crying. The driver in front glanced at the rearview mirror. What's wrong, young lady? I wiped away my tears, forced a smile, and shook my head. It's nothing, I'm just happy, surviving a near-death experience. I was crying tears of joy. I have died once. The me now is reborn. On this day in my previous life, I successfully obtained the marriage certificate with Lu Ming. He was my first love. We got together right after the college entrance exam and even attended universities in the same city. During the years when our love was at its peak, he always liked to proudly show off in front of friends, saying how fortunate he was to have me by his side. He said my name was as beautiful as a poem and that he must one day have it written side by side with his on a marriage certificate. I thought the day we got our marriage certificate would mark the beginning of our journey together for the rest of our lives. Little did I know, it was just the first step on my path to ruin. I thought the warm marriage certificate in my hand was a contract for us to grow old together, but in reality, it was a contract of servitude for me alone, in the early days of our marriage. Our life was simple yet warm. It wasn't until the following spring that I discovered I was pregnant. I was only 26 years old at the time and was still competing for a promotion opportunity in the department. Among the 3 candidates, I had the best chance of winning. The moment I saw the pregnancy test, I was completely stunned. Lu Ming and I had clearly agreed before getting our marriage certificate that we would wait until we were 30 to have children, so we had always been very careful with our contraception. How could I have gotten pregnant just by going back to his hometown for the new year? I didn't hesitate at all, rushing out the door to get rid of the child. But that day, Lu Ming's mother happened to come to visit us. Just as Lu Ming was bringing her inside, I ran into them while holding the pregnancy test. Lu Ming and his mother were over the moon with joy. His mother completely ignored my pale face and started calling everyone one by one to announce the good news. They don't have the custom of keeping a pregnancy secret for the first 3 months, but I always felt there was a hint of strange smugness in her voice as she made those calls. I pulled Lu Ming into the bedroom alone and got straight to the point. I'm planning to have an abortion. The smile on Lu Ming's face instantly froze. After a long moment, he exclaimed in agitation, "Weh, Xiaojin, this is our flesh and blood. We clearly planned to have children only after turning 30. I was both angry and aggrieved, and I'm about to get promoted. Getting pregnant now would just hand the opportunity to someone else, wouldn't it? At that time, Lu Ming gently pulled me into his arms, soothingly patting my back. But Xiaojin, we're going to have children eventually anyway, and it's easier for you to recover if you have one now. I'll cook and give you massages every day. I promise you'll be comfortable. I know you're not happy about it, but having an abortion would also be really hard on you. Once the baby is born, we can let my mom take care of it. You can focus on your career again after you recover, and you'll have settled a major life event early on." I still wasn't happy about it, but Lu Ming held me and said a lot of sweet things. He said he would support me for a lifetime, and that once the child was born, he and his mother would take care of everything, and I only needed to focus on recovering my health during the postpartum period. I thought about how, over the years, he had always kept his promises to me and had been gentle and considerate, and with my mother-in-law's enthusiastic promotion, my parents and a large group of relatives all came to congratulate us. I was put on a pedestal, left with no way out, and in a daze, I decided to keep the child, but it turns out I was too naive. For some men, the person they are when they're in a relationship and the person they become after having children are simply not the same species. You can't believe a single punctuation mark of their nonsense. The frantic flashing of my phone screen snapped me back to reality. I look at the mirror in the hotel bathroom. The reflection shows me unmarried, my face still full of collagen, my figure unchanged, and the frown lines that appeared from the daily grind of marriage haven't yet emerged. The overwhelming joy of surviving a disaster sweeps through every cell in my body again, as if my soul has become much lighter. I glance down at my phone, just as my mom's call pops up again. Now that I've escaped the sea of suffering, I'm in a good mood and no longer keep them waiting. With a swipe of my finger, I answer the call. As soon as the call connected, my mom's anxious voice came through. "Xiaojin, where have you run off to?" I replied casually, "Mom, I'm fine. I'm out taking care of some business and won't be back for a few days." "Mom is asking why you didn't get the marriage certificate with Lu Ming." I shrugged. "I just don't want to marry him anymore." My mother was exasperated. "Silly girl, how can you be so reckless with such an important matter as marriage? Go find Lu Ming right now, apologize to him and his mother, and then schedule a time to get the marriage certificate." "Mom," my voice turned cold, "don't try to persuade me. I won't marry him. Also, starting now, I won't be sending you and Dad a fixed amount of money every month. I'll decide how much to give you each week based on my own situation." I didn't have the energy to argue with her any further and simply hung up the phone. I know, talking to my mom about this is useless. She's been thoroughly brainwashed by that era, firmly believing that a woman without marriage is incomplete. No matter how much I try to reason with her, in the end, nothing changes, and I just end up feeling frustrated for no reason. I opened WeChat, and there were so many messages that the entire page even lagged for a moment. I clicked into Lu Ming's WeChat, which was pinned at the top. "Lu Ming, there's no need to look for me. I'm safe. I'm sorry about the marriage registration. I can't Convince myself, I really don't want to get married right now. Lu Ming immediately called me on WeChat, but I hung up. He had no choice but to send a text. Xiao Jin, where are you? We can reschedule the registration. Let me come find you first. Okay. I truly don't love him anymore. Looking at his profile picture, I even felt like calling him to give him a piece of my mind, but I had to calm down. This Lu Ming wasn't the one from my past life who had worn away all my affection. If I scolded him out of the blue now, I'd probably just be seen as crazy. Having been reborn once, I only wanted to live my own life well and didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. I replied expressionlessly, let's meet at the restaurant across from my company in 3 days, at noon. After sending it, I removed him from the top of my chat list and set his messages to Do Not Disturb. I sent another WeChat message to my supervisor, Sister An. I agree to transfer to the Huai City branch. Sister An is my direct supervisor and a mentor who has been instrumental in my career path. In my previous life, she also fought for a promotion opportunity for me, but it required a transfer to a branch in another city. At the time, Lu Ming and I had just decided to get married, and neither of us wanted to start our marriage with a long-distance relationship, so I ended up turning down Sister An's kind offer. But this time, I won't be so foolish. Besides, the Huai City branch is urgently in need of staff, which suits me perfectly. I can't wait to flee this city overnight. What's family love or romantic love? They're all bullshit when you don't have money. It was while waiting for my takeout that I suddenly remembered I had installed a surveillance camera in my rented apartment. On a whim, I opened my phone and took a look. The apartment I rented before marriage was small, but it was tidy and clean, with all the decorations arranged according to my own preferences, unlike in my previous life. After I gave birth to the child, the marital home I shared with Lu Ming was always a mess. Clothes that Lu Ming carelessly tossed aside were forever scattered on the sofa and bed. No sooner had I tidied up than everything would return to its chaotic state the very next day. I told you to get her pregnant first, but you just wouldn't listen. Just as I was opening a takeout box, a sudden sound from the surveillance feed startled me, nearly causing me to spill the soup. I stared at the surveillance feed on my phone. The rental apartment, which had just been in night vision mode, now had its lights turned on by someone who had entered. It's Lu Ming and his mother. Lu Ming has the key to my rental apartment. When we were dating, he often cooked delicious food and brought it over for me. In the surveillance footage, Lu Ming's mother walked around to the front of my small sofa, picked up one of my plush toys, tossed it aside onto the floor with annoyance, and then leaned back against the sofa in a casual manner. Lu Ming's helpless voice came through, Mom, Xiao Jin and I have already agreed, we'll have a child when we're 30. Lu Ming's mother instantly raised her voice. She says something and you just listen. With a woman like Wen Jin, once you've got her tied down, you have to clip her wings so she doesn't get too strong for you to control. You have to trust your mom, Lu Ming's mother said, gripping his arm earnestly. The only thing that can truly tie a woman down is a child. Looking at her repulsive face, I trembled with anger all over, but they didn't know I had installed surveillance in the rental apartment, and Lu Ming's mother continued her tirade as if no one else was there. She said we'd meet in 3 days, right? You go ahead and book an appointment at the civil affairs office, then just drag her there to get the marriage certificate. If she refuses, just find an evening to invite her out and put what I gave you into her water. Once the rice is cooked, what reason would she have to refuse? I felt a chill run through my body, and cold sweat seeped from my palms. Sure enough, that spring festival in my previous life, Lu Ming and I had taken precautions, but halfway through that night, my mind suddenly went hazy. I thought it was just a case of not being used to the local environment, but now that I think about it, they must have put something in my water back then, deliberately trying to get me pregnant. Mom, what if Xiao Jin breaks up with me? Lu Ming sat down next to his mother, hanging his head dejectedly. I just feel like she was different today. His mother didn't say anything for a long while, then suddenly clapped her hands excitedly. When you meet her in 3 days, just hint to Wen Jin that Xiao Mei's family has already prepared a 500,000 yuan dowry, and she'll marry you as soon as you give the word. His mother seemed to think she had come up with a brilliant idea, so pleased with herself that her eyebrows were practically raised to the ceiling. To be honest, Wenjin has been spoiled by you. If she wants to enter the Lu family, she must learn to be obedient and well-behaved. So, bring Xiao Mei into the picture to give her a sense of crisis. Even if, by some stroke of bad luck, Wenjin were to break up with you, we could always marry Xiao Mei. She's liked you for years, after years of unrequited love, finally getting what she wants. This kind of woman will definitely be obedient and submissive once she marries in. The Xiao Mei, they were talking about was the daughter of Lu Ming's neighbor, who attended the same high school as us. I knew she had had a crush on Lu Ming for years, but Xiao Mei was a good girl. Even though she liked him, she never did anything inappropriate or made me uncomfortable. In my previous life, I foolishly believed the empty promises Lu Ming made, didn't have an abortion, and as a result, missed out on a promotion opportunity. My pregnancy symptoms were particularly severe, so Sister Anne and my other colleagues in the office tried their best to assign me lighter tasks. Although I never heard any complaints from them, my pregnancy was sudden, and it happened to be an exceptionally busy period for the company. Every time I saw my colleagues forced to shoulder a heavier workload, I was filled with guilt. During pregnancy, my thoughts weighed heavily on me. Every time I returned home, I couldn't help but share my feelings of guilt with Lu Ming. At first, Lu Ming would comfort me, but as time went on, he began pretending not to hear or impatiently changing the subject. When I first got pregnant, he promised to cook for me every day, but that commitment only lasted for 3 months. After 3 months, he started to grow impatient, though he never said it out loud. The clear irritation was written all over his face every night when he came home, and he began talking to me less and less. In my eyes during pregnancy, his behavior was nothing short of emotional neglect. I called him out on it, but he flatly denied it, using the excuse that his department had taken on a new project. He stopped cooking altogether and even took it upon himself to bring his mother over under the guise of taking care of me. But he clearly knows that his mother's cooking is terrible. He's used to it. But after just 3 days, I nearly went crazy. What's more, his mother loves forcing pregnant women to eat things they simply can't stomach. And if you throw up, she makes you eat it again. I asked him to send his mother back and hire a cook instead. His mother called me picky, saying that women in her day did heavy labor while pregnant and still turned out just fine. Lu Ming performed an instant rejection, saying he wanted to save money to buy formula for his son. I complained to my mother, but she said, "A married daughter is like water poured out. There's no reason to bring every little thing back to your parents' home. Be a bit more obedient, and your mother-in-law will naturally like you." See, my in-laws' home isn't my home, and my parents' home isn't my home either. I just got married, yet I ended up feeling like an orphan. That year during the Mid-Autumn Festival, I was already heavily pregnant, but my mother-in-law insisted that the whole family should go back to our hometown to gather. I refused, but Lu Ming said, "My mom has had a hard time, she just wants the family to be together for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Don't be so stingy." With my big belly making it hard to move, I had no choice but to let this filial son drag me into the car. We're from the same hometown, which is right next to the city where we work. Not far at all, but I felt sick the whole way. The resentment and anger I had bottled up inside were completely ignited at the dinner table on Mid-Autumn Festival. His mother served a whole table of crab and seafood, and the only thing I could eat was a plate of vegetables. I immediately slammed my chopsticks down, but before I could voice my complaint, Lu Ming pulled me outside. "Wen Jean, how long are you going to keep this up?" he asked, his eyes filled with impatience. "How could you slam your chopsticks in front of my mom during the holidays? Do you have any manners? Then does your mom remember there's a pregnant woman in the house?" I shot back, meeting his gaze. "Serving a whole table of things I can't eat during the holidays? What? Putting a plate of vegetables in front of me? What does she take me for?" Lu Ming took a deep breath. "What's wrong with eating some vegetables? Look how fat you've gotten. You waddle like a duck when you walk." I stared at him in disbelief. "And who the hell is to blame for me ending up like this? Just look at what you've become, fat and sloppy. I get annoyed just seeing you every day, you know that." Lu Ming had probably been holding these words in for a long time. Honestly, I wasn't unaware. Ever since my belly started growing, he'd been claiming to work overtime every few days, not coming home until it was time to sleep. At this moment, it was as if he had torn open a vent for his emotions, shamelessly hurling all sorts of hurtful words at me. Why do other people's wives manage to stay so well maintained even when they're pregnant? Look at Xiao Mei, then look at yourself. If I had known earlier, I would have chosen, slap. Before he could finish his sentence, Xiao Mei, who had just come out to throw away the trash next door, slapped him across the face. "Don't you dare drag me into this, you two-timing scumbag who dares to insult your own wife." I never would have imagined before coming that I would spend that year's Mid-Autumn Festival at Xiao Mei's house. She wasn't married yet at the time. She made me a meal of spare ribs, rice, and a small bowl of chicken soup. Sitting at the dining table, I looked at her still slender figure and delicate face, feeling quite inferior. Unlike her, during my pregnancy, my whole body was swollen, my hair was falling out in clumps, the skin on My face was dull and rough, and I looked as if I had aged 20 years. I didn't dare to meet her gaze, but she sat beside me, staring at me for a long time. She cried. I was puzzled. Why are you crying? She cried even harder, shaking her head. I don't know either. Maybe it's the lingering fear, unrequited love, and in the end, I actually managed to escape unscathed. But you used to be so wonderful. Yes, I used to be so wonderful, but after getting married and becoming pregnant, the husband who once said my name was as beautiful as poetry now finds me disgusting. Fortunately, I was reborn. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. I returned to the company to complete the handover work before my transfer, and at noon, I arrived punctually at the restaurant across from the office. Lu Ming arrived before me, and he even brought his mother along. Xiao Jin, he said excitedly, trying to take my hand. I dodged to the side and sat down opposite him and his mother. His mother watched Lu Ming's actions, a flicker of dissatisfaction flashing in her eyes. But it was quickly concealed. She forced a smile and looked at me. Xiao Jin, we've checked the dates again, and tomorrow is an auspicious day. Xiao Huai has already made an appointment at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Why don't you two go get your marriage certificate tomorrow? Lu Ming's mother is a master of disguise. Before I married Lu Ming, she always greeted me with a smile. Whenever Lu Ming and I had conflicts, she would personally call me, saying she would teach him a lesson on my behalf. But after I got pregnant, she could no longer maintain her hypocritical facade. Now, whenever I look at her face, I feel that every fine wrinkle on it disgusts me. No, Auntie, I've thought it through. I won't marry Lu Ming. Lu Ming couldn't sit still any longer. What exactly happened? Xiao Jin, why so sudden? Lu Ming, I interrupted him. Do you really want to marry me and spend the rest of your life with me? Or is it just to legally have a lifelong nanny? Those words made both mother and son change their expressions. They exchanged a quick glance, and Lu Ming looked back at me, speaking with genuine sincerity. Of course, I want to marry you to spend the rest of my life with you. At this stage, Lu Ming's words might have held a hint of sincerity, but once he had me in his grasp, his thoughts would surely change. I lowered my gaze, stirring my drink, but I didn't dare take a sip. I was afraid Lu Ming's mother had already slipped something into it. Forget it, Lu Ming, I really don't want to get married. This time, it was Lu Ming's mother who couldn't stay seated. She anxiously said, Xiao Jin, is marriage something you can treat so lightly? You've been together for so many years, and now you say you won't marry him. Isn't that just wasting Lu Ming's youth? I scoffed. Auntie, we're only 25 years old, still very young. I don't want to get married, so it's better to cut our losses now. This is responsible for both of us, to avoid rushing into a marriage and ending up arguing over every little thing every day. I looked into Lu Ming's eyes and said seriously, let's break up. We're really not suited for marriage. I don't. Lu Ming had barely uttered 2 words before his mother cut him off. His mother said to him with a triumphant expression, break up then, son. We don't need a woman with no taste. When the weekend comes, you'll come home with me, and we'll go to Xiaomei's house to propose. That girl has liked you since she were little, and I heard her family has prepared a 500,000 dowry for her. After she finished speaking, both of them quietly glanced at me, their eyes filled with obvious anticipation. I knew they were trying to provoke me. They thought that after all these years with Lu Ming, I couldn't let go so quickly. By using Xiaomei to stir me up, maybe I'd get jealous and rush to get married with Lu Ming, but I remained unmoved and said calmly, does Xiaomei know you're scheming against her like this? Her mother shifted her gaze, unnaturally, stubbornly insisting, what scheming? Our Lu family is genuinely sincere in seeking a daughter-in-law. It's just that you don't have the fortune. Her mother spoke with a sarcastic tone, and Lu Ming didn't dare utter a word. In my past life, I was too naive. How could I expect such a man to stand up for me after marriage? I took out my phone and opened a video recording. The conversation between the mother and son in my rented apartment a few days ago was now clearly replayed. The 2 across from me were now completely flustered. Lu Ming's mother pointed at me, her finger trembling. You were spying on us and eavesdropping on our conversation. Let's get one thing straight. That's my house. I installed the surveillance for security, and as it turns out, I caught the 2 of you and heard your utterly shameless and brilliant remarks. I looked at Lu Ming. Since we've broken up, give me back the keys. Lu Ming urgently tried to take my hand. Xiao Jin, you have to believe me. I didn't. I dodged again. I don't believe it. We agreed to have children at 30, and you promised me so earnestly, yet you act differently in front of your mother, even planning to make me accidentally pregnant so we'd have to get married. I threw back at him the words he had said to me during the Mid-Autumn Festival in my previous life. Look at what you've become, two-faced, full of lies, and utterly insincere. Don't you know how annoying I find you just by looking at you? When Lu Ming had never heard such scolding since he was a child and couldn't hold back, slamming the table and standing up. Don't push your luck, you've been with me for so long, and if you don't marry me, who else would want a second-hand woman like you? His mother sat beside him, cheering him on with a smug expression, saying, exactly, if you don't marry me, plenty of other women are lining up to do so. Lu Ming looked down at me condescendingly. I'm going to propose to Xiao Mei this weekend. Don't come crying back to me then, I sighed. What a confident piece of lard. Lu Ming glared at me. But before he could say anything more, a man's voice suddenly came from the seat behind me. Xiao Mei, is that Lu Ming and his mother? Don't be foolish enough to believe their nonsense. These days, all sorts of strange characters are out there. From what they're saying, they're trying to pull a fast one and force the girl into a shotgun wedding. I've seen plenty of people like them. They're just scheming to get the girl for free without spending a single penny. Lu Ming and his mother instantly turned as pale as ghosts. I watched with great interest, and behind me, Xiao Mei gracefully stood up, holding her WeChat video call, and sat down beside me. Judging by the situation, the screen recording I just played was heard by everyone on the other end of the video call. She looked at the man in the video and smiled. I know, Dad, I wouldn't jump into a fire pit myself. It seemed there were many people on the other side of the video, and the chattering voices made Lu Ming and his mother even more distraught. Lu Ming's lips also turned pale. Xiao Mei, why are you here? Xiao Mei said, oh, I have an interview with a company nearby today. I was planning to check in with my parents during lunch, but I never expected to hear such a brilliant conversation from the two of you. Lu Ming was on the verge of breaking down. I didn't, Xiao Mei cut in. Looks like I should go buy a lottery ticket today. I'm really lucky to have dodged a bullet. Of course, I was the one who called Xiao Mei over. In this life, not only do I need to avoid this disaster, but I also can't let other good people suffer at the hands of Lu Ming and his mother. Lu Ming's mother was completely bewildered. She asked Xiao Mei, where was your dad just now? Why, did it sound like there were a lot of people? Xiao Mei smiled. He was playing cards. You know how it is, old folks love to pass the time with card games after retirement. Lu Ming and his mother were utterly devastated. Xiao Mei's father was playing cards, which meant that all the elderly men and women in the card parlor had overheard their shameless conversation. What kind of place is a mahjong parlor? It's the neighborhood's intelligence agency. By now, their glorious deeds have probably spread throughout the entire village. Who would dare to marry their daughter into their family now? Lu Ming and I are completely done for. The company notified me that I need to go to Huicheng the day after tomorrow. They've already booked my flight ticket, and the single dormitory assigned by the Huicheng branch has also been arranged. Feeling completely refreshed, I had a meal with Xiao Mei and then returned to the hotel. I didn't go back to the rental apartment, afraid that Lu Ming might go there to confront me, so I hired a cleaning service and a moving company to help pack my luggage. In the evening, just after I finished showering, my mom called again. Xiao Jin, Lu Ming came to see us. Why did you suddenly decide not to get married? I chuckled lightly. Mom, everyone back home knows what Lu Ming and his mother are up to. Don't tell me you're still in the dark. My mother was taken aback and stammered, but if you don't get married soon, you'll be considered an old maid. Besides, when two people live together, there are bound to be disagreements. I've sent you the recording of the two of them. You can take a look, I said. His mother is aiming to turn me into a free nanny. This isn't just friction, it's shitting on my head. Mom, how come I never knew you were so selfless, spending decades just to raise a nanny for the Lu family? My mother scolded. Why have you been speaking so harshly lately, having already died once? What's wrong with speaking a little harshly? Anyway, I won't get married that early. Mom is doing this for your own good. A woman who doesn't get married is incomplete. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Her feudalistic mindset is deeply ingrained, and I can't change it with words alone. I changed the subject. I've already transferred this week's living expenses. Did you receive them? When it comes to money, my mom's confidence wavers a bit. She asked awkwardly, Xiao Jin, even though you said you'd send money weekly from now on, you used to send 2,000 yuan every month, which averages out to 500 yuan per week. So why did you only transfer 300 yuan this week? I replied, you didn't take my side. Instead, you joined forces with Lu Ming and his mom. It annoyed me, so I went out to have some fun to lift my mood and ended up spending more. Naturally, I couldn't give you as much, my mom protested, but I cut her off directly. I have some work to take care of, so let's talk later. I added, it's fine, Mom, maybe one day when I'm in a better mood, the living expenses will go back up. I'm the only daughter in my family, and my parents have treated me fairly well since I was little. But in my previous life, after I got married, their behavior truly left me heartbroken. In my previous life, after marriage, Lu Ming and I each used our own salaries to send money to our respective parents. I gave my parents a fixed amount every month, but when Lu Ming's mother found out about this, she went to my mom and made sarcastic remarks, saying that since I had already married into the Lu family, my money was essentially the Lu family's money, and how dare my own family have the nerve to ask for it. My parents didn't even dare to argue back. In their view, a married daughter is like water poured out. They genuinely believed my mother-in-law was in the right. I was absolutely furious and wanted to confront Lu Ming and his mother, but my mom stopped me, saying that as a married woman, I should know my place and be obedient. Hearing that only made me angrier. I went straight to Lu Ming and his mother and made a scene, and at the same time, I cut off the living expenses I had been giving my parents. But if I really stopped giving them money, my mom would come to me and subtly play the victim, recounting stories from my childhood, trying to use nostalgia to soften my heart. I said irritably, didn't you say I was like spilled water and shouldn't give you money anymore? My mom lowered her eyes and said pitifully, you silly child, I'm not asking you for money, I'm just reminiscing about your childhood. My parents are like most parents in East Asian families, neither particularly good nor bad, timid and cowardly, unwilling to stand up for their daughter, not considering her part of the family after marriage, yet still wanting to extract endless benefits from her. After that, I still softened my heart and continued to give them living expenses every month, but this money completely stopped after I gave birth to my daughter. In my previous life, I gave birth to a daughter. Upon hearing the gender, Lu Ming's mother didn't even take a look at the child and immediately turned back to her hometown. She promised to take care of the child after it was born, but she broke her word directly, and Lu Ming also defended his mother in front of me, saying that she was getting old and taking care of a child would tire her out. Just like that, before I even finished my postpartum confinement, I had already argued with Lu Ming 7 or 8 times. The sad part is, after giving birth, I was completely stripped of my wings and shackled, and I had no way to deal with the mother and son. I have no experience, and our family savings are not enough to hire a nanny. I wanted to ask my mother for help, but my father is in poor health, and neither my mother nor I dare to leave him alone at home. I had no choice but to quit my job and exhaustedly become a full-time mother. But without a job, I lost my dignity in front of Lu Ming. He only plays with the child on a whim, and even when I finally manage to get the child to sleep, he shows no consideration, only caring about his own happiness. When the child gets woken up and cries uncontrollably, he just hands the child over to me, using work as an excuse to hide in his room. When we first got married, we split the household chores equally, but after I lost my job, he stopped helping with both childcare and housework. If I express even the slightest complaint, he criticizes me, saying, you stay at home all day without having to work. What's the big deal about taking care of the child and doing some housework? I go to work every day to provide for you, and you still expect me to do chores. What did I marry you for? Look at you now, disheveled and unkempt. I'd be embarrassed to take you out. Every night you're half dead. It kills the mood. We've argued countless times over these issues, but without an income, I can never be in the right, and he can never truly understand my exhaustion. Sometimes when I go out to buy groceries, I find myself staring at those young, vibrant girls, lost in thought. I never understood why the elderly back in my hometown would always sit at their doorsteps, staring blankly at the young people passing by, but after having a child, I finally understood. Looking at those young girls, I can't help but search for traces of my younger self in them. I can't help but wonder, if I hadn't gotten married or had children, would I still be as carefree as they are? I've started to dread attending weddings because every time I see those brides, I can't bring myself to offer them blessings. Watching them walk toward their grooms, I feel nothing but immense sorrow in my heart. Such wonderful girls, and their good days are just coming to an end. The contrast between life before and after marriage is simply too stark, and I've always been an outstanding student, proud of my achievements. I was once an outstanding student representative, an excellent employee, and I too once wore beautiful dresses, carefree as the wind. After becoming a mother, Every penny I earn is instinctively thought of for my child first, busy with childcare and household chores every day. I can no longer take the time to dress up meticulously as I did before marriage. I rarely wear beautiful dresses or put on nice makeup anymore. Lu Ming began to frequently complain about my sloppiness, but when we went shopping and I glanced at pretty dresses, he would cleverly remind me that he was the only one working in the family, and the money should be saved for our child. I began to desperately long to return to the workplace, but looking at my child with no one to care for them, I hated myself for not being heartless and selfish enough. I started to become insecure, afraid to speak with outstanding and beautiful peers my age. The blow from this disparity was far greater than I had imagined, and under this daily grind, I developed depression. I had no concept of depression before, but when I truly started to become depressed, I realized I could no longer control my emotions. I started experiencing insomnia, headaches, and hair loss night after night, and I would cry for no reason. In the dead of night, when everything was silent, a thought would suddenly pop into my mind: I really want to die. I was startled, but at that time, it felt as if I had split into two people. One, positive me, was saying, "Don't be afraid, things will get better," but another, negative me, says, "It won't get better, life will only get worse and worse, it's better to just end it all." I am in so much pain that even the slightest inconvenience can make me break down in uncontrollable sobs. I called my mom and said, "Mom, I'm so tired, I really want to die," but my mom doesn't understand me either. Instead, she advises me, "Silly girl, all women go through this, just endure it a little longer, and it will pass." But I can't hold on any longer. When cooking, looking at those knives, I can't help but imagine them against my own wrist. It wasn't until my daughter's voice reached me that I suddenly snapped out of it, terrified, and put the knife down. I can't let go of the daughter I carried for 10 months and gave birth to. If I were to leave, what would become of her? The more it was like this, the deeper my pain became. By the time my daughter was 3 years old, I think my depression had become quite severe. I still remember that sunny day when my parents came to visit me. They helped look after the child while I rode an electric bike to buy groceries. As I passed by a bridge, I realized my emotions had completely split, and at that moment, the negative side took absolute control. I stopped my electric bike and stood by the bridge, watching the murmuring stream below, an impulse relentlessly pushing me forward. It seemed to bypass my mind, taking direct control of my body. A sense of weightlessness enveloped me, the sound of the wind mingling with the panicked cries of passers-by. As my body plunged into the water, I took one last look at the sunlight. Water flowed into my nose and throat, and I relaxed my body, letting myself sink. I felt an unprecedented sense of ease. I was free. I don't know why I was reborn, but since I've been given a second chance, I absolutely must not repeat the same mistakes. My daughter will not be born, and I hope that in this life, she can be reborn into a wealthy family, where her family will wholeheartedly welcome her into the world. After arriving at the Huicheng branch, I not only got promoted but also received 2 salary increases within 6 months. In my spare time, I would shoot short videos. The theme of independent women was very appealing, and my follower count grew rapidly. Soon, I received many offers for star chart advertisements. My main job is stable, my side hustle is taking off. I go to bed early and wake up early every day, exercise, read, and have even taken up dancing and calligraphy. In my previous life after marriage, I never felt as hopeful about the future as I do now. My mom used to say that a girl needs to find a man to marry to have someone to rely on, but in my previous life, after I got married, I only wanted to die. Now that I'm on my own, my life has actually become more fulfilling. I told my mom I'm very happy, but she didn't believe me and still tried to persuade me to go on blind dates and get married. She said, "If you don't get married, what will you do when you're in your 60s or 70s? Who will take care of you when you're all alone?" Admiring my new manicure, I only know that right now, I'm building up my strength every day, and by the time I'm in my 60s or 70s, I'll still be a beautiful old lady who can get up early for a morning run. But I got married, and by the time I'm in my 60s or 70s, I'll probably be physically and mentally exhausted, still having to work hard to take care of my husband. I didn't argue with my mom, nor did I bother to. I simply cut their living expenses for the week by 1/3. My mom instantly became more compliant. After the restaurant incident, I thought Lu Ming would have a hard time finding a wife, but I never expected that just 2 years later, he got married, and his mother announced they would hold a grand wedding in our village during the New Year holiday. The two of them probably still held a grudge against me and Xiaomei, smugly handing us the invitations in person. His mother raised her voice, practically wanting every dog in the village to hear. I always said, our Lu Ming is handsome and talented, with a great job. There are plenty of girls chasing after him, but both Xiao Mei and I just responded with an oh. Having no interest in watching her performance, I was busy editing videos, and Xiao Mei had also opened a yoga studio in Huicheng, busy scheduling classes for after the new year. Seeing that no one was playing along, Lu Ming's mother felt awkward and left, grumbling and cursing. It wasn't until the wedding day, when we arrived at the hotel, that I found out Lu Ming had married a girl from another province. As the girl took her father's hand and slowly walked toward Lu Ming, I suddenly felt a surge of warmth welling up in my eyes. Why are you crying? Xiao Mei quickly shielded me. Fortunately, everyone was focused on the stage, and no one noticed me. I shook my head. I don't know, maybe it's just lingering fear. At that moment, I finally understood why Xiao Mei had looked at me with tears in her eyes during that mid-autumn festival in my previous life. Is the wild joy of having narrowly escaped disaster, is the lingering fear of having almost jumped into a pit of fire, is also a deep sympathy for another innocent woman. After returning from the wedding, my mother couldn't help but start nagging again. Lu Ming is indeed good-looking and has a decent job. My dad tugged at her sleeve, winking and gesturing, but my mom was probably still shaken by that wedding and completely missed his hints. She sighed heavily. Xiao Jin, you're being foolish too, such a good man, and he almost became yours. I still didn't argue with her directly. Instead, I picked up my phone and booked a high-speed train ticket back to Huicheng for the day after tomorrow. My mom was dumbfounded. Xiao Jin, didn't you say you'd take your dad and me to Xinjiang for a trip the day after tomorrow? I took a sip of tea with a calm expression. You've ruined my mood, so let's talk about the trip another time. But, my mom said timidly, I already told my square dancing friends about it. I didn't respond, just kept looking at my phone. My father pulled her aside with a mix of frustration and disappointment. Why on earth did you have to provoke her for no reason? I still have a lot of annual leave left. Originally, I thought our family of 3 had been getting along quite well lately, so I planned to take my parents to Xinjiang for a 2-week trip. Of course, only if I was in the mood. After all, East Asian parents have quite a reputation for being killjoys when traveling, and I didn't want to spend money on a trip only to end up feeling frustrated. There was a popular TV series about Xinjiang a while back, and all the elderly folks in the village have been longing to visit that place. Hearing that I was going to take them, the old couple were overjoyed and bragged everywhere, making the neighbors envious for quite a while. Now that their excitement has been ruined, I simply won't take them anymore, and they're not willing to accept it. Our daughter is already good enough, my dad said to my mom. Can you stop making a fuss? My mom defended herself. I'm just anxious. You just can't keep your mouth shut. Look at all the married sons and daughters out there. Which one is as good as our daughter? Other families' elderly parents don't even get as much living expenses in a month as our daughter gives in a week. If you keep this up, once she gets married, you'll be left with nothing to live on. My mom seemed to have figured out the key point as well, and she didn't dare bring up marriage again until I returned to Huicheng. See, when it comes down to it, the relationship between parents and children is also one of interest. Most parents raise their children to gain face and benefits from them, but they package this selfishness under the name of great, selfless love. Too many young people are intimidated. Actually, treating them in their own way brings peace to everything. I give them benefits and love in exchange for the freedom and tranquility of my own life. If they insist on making me unhappy, then I will reduce the benefits and love. Whenever my mom pressures me to go on blind dates and get married, I cut back on the living allowance I give her. When I buy them nutritional supplements and imported fruits, and they dampen the mood by complaining about me wasting money, I let them enjoy it just this once, and then never buy them again. Over time, they've come to understand that only when I'm happy will their retirement life be comfortable later. I also heard that Lu Ming and his wife got divorced. They had a son, but as soon as his wife entered the door, Lu Ming and his mother revealed their true colors, especially Lu Ming's mother, who took advantage of the fact that the new bride was from out of town and far from her own family, relentlessly bullied her. Xiao Mei told me that Lu Ming's mother moved into the couple's marital home, claiming to help take care of the grandson, but in reality, she turned their small family upside down. Not only did she sow discord between the couple every day, but once the grandson could understand human speech, she also spoke ill of the daughter-in-law in front of him. That girl seemed to have shed a whole layer of skin just from getting married. Finally, one time, the child clamored for McDonald's, and the new bride refused, saying, "We just had it yesterday." The child actually called her a bitch right there on the street. saying he wanted to kill her and get a new mom. That very night, the girl filed for divorce, not even wanting the son. She took the share of property the court awarded her and, the moment she got the divorce certificate, turned and went back to her parents' home without looking back. I heard that during the cooling-off period for the divorce, the girl secretly confided her troubles to a kind-looking old lady in our village. That kind-hearted old lady had a nickname, the Cheerful Trumpet, and so, the Lu Ming family became famous once again. A remarried man, a wicked mother-in-law, and a son who kept saying he wanted to kill mom. Lu Ming never managed to find another wife after that. As the child grew older, he became more rebellious, and even his mother couldn't control him anymore. Lu Ming had to work during the day, and when he came home, he still had to help his child with homework. It's said that their household is in constant chaos, with over 20 complaints from the neighborhood residents every day. Upon hearing that I was still unmarried, the mother and son duo started scheming about me. Lu Ming's mother ran to my mom and flattered her, saying, "Xiao Jin and our Lu Ming were first loves to begin with, a perfect match made in heaven, plus, if Xiao Jin marries into our family, she can become a mother without any pain." My parents grabbed a toilet brush from the bathroom and chased her out. My mother stood with her hands on her hips, shouting angrily, "Where did this old cucumber come from, trying to climb up to my daughter? My daughter is smart, beautiful, and talented. Your Lu Ming is a divorced man who would be left on the shelf in the marriage market, and to think of becoming a mother without any pain, who would want your ill-mannered grandson." Upon hearing about their heroic battle, I bought my mother a gold bracelet and my father a branded watch. The old couple flaunted them in the village for a whole week, making Lu Ming's mother green with envy. Over the years, it has always been like this. Whenever someone tried to bully me, as long as my parents stood up for me, I would give them gifts. They tasted the sweetness, not only being friendly with me, but also growing bolder. Whenever anyone dared to make sarcastic remarks about me, they were the first to stand up and defend their own daughter. Family harmony actually requires money to maintain. I cooperated with them for mutual benefit, and they became the most comfortable elderly couple in the village, with money and leisure, and no need to take care of children. While others were driven crazy by their grandchildren, my parents played chess and danced. When others had to travel thousands of miles to big cities to help take care of their grandchildren during winter and summer vacations, my parents traveled all over the country. The other elders in the village may not say it out loud, but their envy is written all over their eyes. In my previous life, I followed the standards this world set for women, getting married and having children. In the end, I lost my looks, my figure, my money, and even my home, with no hope left in life. In this life, I am happily being myself. Besides not having a husband or children, I have good looks and a great figure, a house and a car, money and free time. My parents will always stand by me, and my home will forever be my home. The rest of my life is full of hope. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I was reborn on the day of my daughter Tao Ziyi's wedding, where she offered a cup of tea to both me and her mother-in-law, Lu Wanqiu. Just as my hand touched the teacup, she suddenly said, "Mom, I've noticed you're actually quite competitive. You even wanted to be the first to serve tea before my mother-in-law. In this regard, you're not as good as my mother-in-law. She is graceful and magnanimous, never competing or fighting for anything. That's what I call the demeanor of an elder." As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of all the guests in the room instantly turned to me. Seeing that my expression remained unchanged, Tao Ziyi added with a hint of coquettishness, "Mom, don't be angry. I was just trying to lighten the mood. You're not so uptight that you can't take a little joke, are you? Besides, I wasn't wrong. My mother-in-law really did give me 10 million as a change of address gift, unlike some elders who are stingy but still want to put on airs." In her previous life, Lu Wanqiu had given her 10 million, only to turn around and make her sign an agreement to waive all marital assets, ultimately leaving her with nothing. And as for my own mother, the 5 million she had prepared as a dowry for me hadn't even been given to me yet. In that case, I'll just keep this money for myself to spend. I turned around, set down the teacup, picked up the red envelope on the table, and in front of everyone, took out 1 yuan and placed it in her hand. "Good daughter, Mom wishes you harmony and boundless happiness." A 1 yuan note fluttered lightly into Tao Ziyi's palm. The smile on her face froze. The guests in the hall couldn't help but start whispering among themselves. The MC's professional smile was also on the verge of faltering, desperately trying to find words to smooth things over. Lu Wanqiu sat upright, a slight curve at the corner of her mouth, wearing an expression of someone thoroughly enjoying the drama. Son-in-law, when Jean frowned, quickly walked over to Tao Ziyi's side, and asked in a low voice, "Ziyi, what's going on?" Tao Ziyi snapped back to reality, her voice suddenly rising sharply. "Mom, what do you mean by this, giving me just 1 yuan on such an occasion? Are you trying to embarrass me?" I picked up my teacup and took a slow, deliberate sip. "Didn't you say it yourself, to liven up the atmosphere? Your mother-in-law gave you 10 million, so I wish you boundless happiness. It's not about the amount of money, it's the thought that counts. Do you really think the bond between us, mother and daughter, is only worth $1? My series of retorts left her speechless. She looked to her mother-in-law for help. Only then did Lu Wanqiu set down her teacup and slowly rise to her feet, adopting the demeanor of a kind and loving elder. "Dear in-laws, Ziyi is still young and speaks her mind without thinking. Please don't take it to heart. Today is a joyous occasion. Let's not let such a small matter spoil the harmony." With that, she took out a thick red envelope from her Hermes bag and stuffed it into Tao Ziyi's hand. "Ziyi, Mom knows you've been wronged. Take this to calm your nerves." Tao Ziyi immediately broke into a smile, hugging Lu Wanqiu's arm and cooing, "Thank you, Mom, you're the one who loves me most." After serving the tea, Tao Ziyi, and when Jean went to toast the guests, deliberately avoiding my table the entire time. During the gathering, a relative came over to express their indignation. "Tao Ziyi is just too outrageous. How did you raise such an ungrateful child?" I smiled and said, "The child has grown up and has their own thoughts now." The relative wanted to say more, but her husband pulled her away. I quietly finished the entire wedding banquet all by myself. No one bothered me anymore. After the wedding, I didn't wait for them and took a taxi home by myself. As soon as I got home, Tao Ziyi's call came chasing after me. The moment the call connected, it was her hysterical questioning. "Lin Su, did you deliberately embarrass me today? Are you jealous that I married well? Jealous that my mother-in-law is richer than you?" She didn't even call me Mom anymore, addressing me directly by my name. "Do you have any idea how much you've made me lose face in front of Wen Jean and his friends because of you? My mother-in-law is so magnanimous, and all you do is embarrass me." I put the call on speakerphone, listening to her vent while changing my shoes. Once she had worn herself out from scolding, I finally picked up the phone and asked, "Are you done?" The person on the other end of the phone choked. "Tao Ziyi, your wedding is over. You're now a member of the Wen family, so stop bothering me in the future. Whether I have money or not, whether I'm jealous of you or not, has nothing to do with you. What you should be worrying about is how to firmly hold on to that 10 million yuan change of address gift from your mother-in-law." With that, I hung up the phone directly. For the next month, Tao Ziyi indeed did not contact me again, but my social media feed was almost completely taken over by her updates. Today, she was sunbathing on a private beach in the Maldives. Tomorrow, she was splurging in a luxury store in Paris. In the photo, she was surrounded by various designer bags and jewelry, smiling with a look of pure happiness. Each social media post was accompanied by suggestive captions. "A woman's life truly depends on marrying the right person. Thank you to my wonderful mother-in-law. Some happiness is innate. It's not something you can envy." Occasionally, when Jean would appear in the frame, looking at her with a doting expression, the comments section below was filled with praise from her newly acquainted socialite friends. "Ziyi is truly a winner in life. Envious, Mrs. Wen's daily life is our dream." My relatives and friends also commented below, "Ziyi is getting more and more beautiful. Happy wedding. May you be happy." Tao Ziyi would selectively reply to those who flattered her, completely ignoring my relatives. In my previous life, I too had felt comforted by her so-called happiness. It wasn't until she left with nothing, crying as she came back to me, that I realized it was all just a mirage. Lu Wanqiu was a master with these small favors. She lifted Tao Ziyi high, making her completely lose herself in a false sense of wealth, make her feel that her natal family is her burden, while her husband's family is her support. Then, when she is at the peak of her confidence, pull the rug out from under her. Probably after a month of flooding my feed and finding that I had no reaction, not even a single like, Tao Ziyi was starting to lose her composure. She started sending me WeChat messages. At first, it was sharing some links, like how to get along with your mother-in-law with high emotional intelligence, and how women can build their own careers. Seeing that I still didn't reply, she began to attack directly. "Mom, are you still mad at me? I already said it was just a joke. As an elder, can't you be a bit more generous? My mother-in-law said she'd like to invite you to have a meal with our family to ease the tension." Seeing this message, I replied with 2 words, "No time." She probably didn't expect me to be so direct, and it took her a long time to respond. Long string of voice messages came through, filled with the familiar tone of blame and complaints. I didn't open a single one, just deleted the chat window. Not 2 days later, an unfamiliar profile picture sent me a friend request, with the verification message, "In-laws, I'm Lu Wanqiu." I accepted the request. Lu Wanqiu's skill level is indeed much higher than Tao Ziyi's. She didn't start by blaming, but instead showed concern and care. "How have you been feeling lately, dear in-law? Ziyi is such a child, always telling me she misses you but is too embarrassed to bother you. She said she made you unhappy on the wedding day and has been feeling guilty ever since. She's just being childish. Please don't take it to heart." Every sentence was about Tao Ziyi, keeping herself completely out of it. I replied, "That's good, no need to worry." In the following days, she began to show another side of her graceful and magnanimous nature. First, she had the driver deliver a box of bird's nest, supposedly a special supply from abroad, which I refused to accept. Another charity dinner invitation arrived, saying they wanted to show me the world and introduce me to some friends. I replied, "Not interested." She seemed oblivious to my distance, still sending a daily WeChat greeting, acting as warmly as if we were longtime best friends. It wasn't until I stopped replying altogether that she finally showed her true colors. "In-laws, I understand that there might be some disparity in our family's financial situations, which may have made you uncomfortable, but our feelings for Ziyi are genuine. We are family, and we should support each other in the future. Ziyi and Wenjin want to make some investments together. It's a good thing for young people to be ambitious, and as elders, we should support them." I replied directly, "I don't have the money." Lu Wanqiu quieted down on her end. She began taking Tao Ziyi to various exclusive private clubs, calling it expanding her social network. On those occasions, she would casually chat with the investment big shots about a promising overseas new energy project. When Jean, on the other hand, would chime in from the sidelines, presenting a meticulously prepared feasibility report and analyzing it with great clarity, claiming it was a golden opportunity he had secured for their small family to turn their fortunes around. After several flawless performances, Tao Ziyi was completely convinced, believing that her in-laws were genuinely trying to help her, eager to bring her into the business and elevate her to a higher social status. As a result, Tao Ziyi started calling me incessantly. When the phone calls wouldn't go through, she would try different numbers. When she was blocked on WeChat, she would use Wenjin's account or those of her friends. Over and over, it's still the same few words, but the tone has shifted from boasting to bestowing a favor. "Mom, are you still holding a grudge about the wedding? Think bigger," my mother-in-law said. "Family shouldn't dwell on these things. I'm giving you an opportunity now." My mother-in-law pulled strings through several layers of connections to secure this project. It's a sure win with no losses. The return rate is 30%. When Jean has invested all his savings for a wife, saying he wants me to achieve financial freedom as soon as possible, so I won't have to answer to anyone anymore. We also want to bring you along to make a fortune, so you can live a truly upper-class life too. Instead of clinging to that stagnant money, we're just short of 2 million in startup capital, and don't you have 5 million? I promise, 3 months. In 3 months, I'll return both the principal and interest to you, and by then, you'll be an investor too. In my previous life, it was this guaranteed profit project that turned the 5 million I had set aside for Tao Ziyi into nothing but a bubble. Actually, it was a trap set by Lu Wanqiu. She had someone create a fake investment project to trick Tao Ziyi and me into investing money. As soon as the money was in hand, that friend vanished into thin air. Lu Wanqiu then hypocritically came out to console us, claiming she had also been deceived. But it didn't matter. Money is just a worldly possession, and what's important is that everyone is safe. She used my money to buy a good reputation and made Tao Ziyi resent me even more, thinking that I caused her to miss a chance to get rich. How could I possibly fall for it again in this lifetime? I blocked those unfamiliar numbers one by one, my heart calm and undisturbed, until one afternoon, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Tao Ziyi and Wenjin. Tao Ziyi's eyes were red and swollen, as if she had been crying. Wenjin, on the other hand, looked impatient. "I'm not going to open the door." Tao Ziyi initially just cried and pleaded pitifully, "Mom, open the door, it's Ziyi, I really have nowhere else to turn, please help me." Seeing that I showed no reaction, her voice began to change tone, and she started banging on the door outside. "Lin Su, open the door, I know you're in there, give me the money, that's what you owe me anyway." Other mothers go out of their way to help their daughters, but all you do is hold me back. Her shrill voice drew the neighbors out to watch the commotion. I took out my phone, ready to call the police, when Jean seemed to feel embarrassed and pulled her back. Enough, stop howling, aren't you ashamed? Tao Ziyi's crying paused for a moment, then erupted even more intensely. I'm embarrassing. When Jean, what do you mean? If it weren't for your mother going back on her word, would I need to come begging her? We agreed on a 10 million change of address fee back then, but now, it's turned into some family fund, giving me just 50,000 a month for pocket money. Is that how you treat a beggar? Even buying a bag requires watching her expression. I've had enough. The couple's argument grew louder and louder. So, this is how the so-called 10 million name change fee is given. In my previous life, Tao Ziyi never told me this detail before she was left with nothing. It seems that with this rebirth, the course of many events has been accelerated. Listening to the argument outside the door, I don't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for her. She chose this path herself. Perhaps they were tired from arguing. As it grew quiet outside, I thought they had left. After a while, the doorbell rang again, this time with two short, sharp chimes. I looked through the peephole again. Only when Jean was there. The impatience from earlier was gone from his face, replaced instead by a hypocritical smile. Mom, open the door. Let's talk. Ziyi is young and doesn't know any better. Please don't take it to heart. We're really in a tough spot. My mom's project is really reliable. I guarantee it with my character. If you lend us the money, consider it an investment. Once we make a profit, we'll give you dividends and show our gratitude. His words were certainly more pleasant to hear than Tao Ziyi's. I said coldly, get lost. When Jin's smile froze on his face, his tone instantly turning gloomy. Mom, don't push your luck. We're trying to discuss this with you nicely. Don't force us to use other methods. Aren't you afraid that Tao Ziyi will really cut ties with you? When you're old and sick, who will take care of you? I sneered coldly. I've already called the police. Harassment and threats. If you don't leave now, you can explain it to the police. Outside the door, when Jin's low curses and Tao Ziyi's unwilling sobs could be heard, but it soon fell silent. A wave of exhaustion washed over me, the dull ache of severing blood ties with my own hands. After that day, they quieted down for a few days. Unexpectedly, a week later, Tao Ziyi, when Jean and Lu Wanqiu came knocking on my door together. This time, they didn't bang on the door but waited politely outside. When I returned from grocery shopping, I saw the three of them blocking my doorway. As soon as Lu Wanqiu saw me, she immediately put on a wide smile and came forward to take my arm, but I sidestepped to avoid her. Dear in-law, you're finally back. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Tao Ziyi's expression was grim, but she still forced a smile. Mom. When Jean also followed with a greeting, Mom, I looked at them, expressionless. What's the matter? Lu Wanqiu quickly said. In-laws, let's go inside and talk. Standing outside will make people laugh at us. I took out my keys to open the door, and they followed me in. As soon as they entered, Lu Wanqiu began inspecting my house. Living alone in such a big house must feel quite lonely. Dear in-law, I didn't respond, heading to the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water, with no intention of entertaining them. The atmosphere in the living room grew somewhat awkward. Tao Ziyi walked up to me and knelt down with a thud. I was startled, and the water glass in my hand shook a little. She spoke while crying. Mom, I was wrong. I shouldn't have embarrassed you at the wedding, shouldn't have been stubborn with you, shouldn't have said those hurtful things. Please, forgive me just this once. We really are at the end of our rope. It turned out that the so-called investment project had its subscription deadline tomorrow. If they couldn't scrape together the money by then, they would completely miss their chance to show his sincerity. When Jean has already invested hundreds of thousands of his own savings, now all that's missing is my 2 million. When Jean also chimed in with soft words, yes, Mom, this time it's our fault. You're magnanimous. Please help us out. Lu Wanqiu also chimed in from the side. In-law, just consider it a favor from me as your in-law. Once they make money, I promise they'll repay you double. If I hadn't been reborn once, I might have truly softened. Unfortunately, there are no ifs. I set down the water glass and looked at Tao Ziyi kneeling on the floor. If you want me to give you the money, fine. The eyes of all three of them instantly lit up. But I have one condition. What condition, Mom? Just tell us. As long as we can do it, Tao Ziyi asked eagerly. I took a document and a pen from the coffee table drawer and threw them in front of them. Sign it. That is a statement severing the relationship, written clearly in black and white, voluntarily severing the mother-daughter relationship. From now on, in matters of marriage, death, and all other affairs, we shall have nothing to do with each other, all property under my name will no longer be associated with her. Tao Ziyi's crying stopped as she looked at me in disbelief. Wen Jin and Lu Wanqiu's faces instantly fell. Lin Su, have you gone mad? Lu Wanqiu shrieked. I looked at her calmly. I'm not mad, this is my money, who I want to give it to, and who I don't, is my freedom. If you want the money, trade it for the relationship, it's only fair. Tao Ziyi picked up the statement, her hands trembling. Mom, do you have to be so heartless? You were the one who was heartless first. Tao Ziyi's gaze shifted back and forth between the statement and my face. She is weighing her options. On one side is the elusive bond between mother and daughter, and on the other is the readily available millions and future wealth. Just as she picks up the pen, ready to sign, she suddenly catches sight of a bag I placed on the entryway cabinet. I bought that just a few days ago. A brand that isn't particularly eye-catching but comes with a hefty price tag. Then he noticed the watch on my wrist. His eyes suddenly turned greedy and venomous. He stood up, pointed at me, and shouted, I get it now, you're not refusing to give me money because you're angry with me. You just want to enjoy it all yourself. You're living the high life with my dad's inheritance, buying designer brands and enjoying yourself, yet you won't give me a single cent. Lin Su, how can you be so heartless? Her words sparked an idea in Wen Jin and Lu Wanqiu's minds. The way they looked at me shifted from anger to greed. Lu Wanqiu licked her lips, her tone shifting. In-laws, you can't say that. Your husband passed away early, leaving this money, which should rightfully have Ziyi's share. You alone won't spend much anyway, so why fight with the child over it? Wen Jin was even more direct, walking up to me with an unfriendly look in his eyes. Mom, I'll call you Mom one last time. Hand over the card and tell us the password, otherwise. He didn't finish his sentence, but the threat was clear. Looking at their ugly faces, I suddenly laughed. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Hello, is this Captain Zhang? There are 3 robbers in my house. Yes, the address is. The police arrived quickly. When she saw the police, Lu Wanqiu's legs went weak. When Jean tried to argue, claiming it was a family dispute, I directly played the recording I had secretly made earlier for the police to hear. The 3 of them were taken away in an orderly manner. Before leaving, Tao Ziyi glared at me with resentment. Lin Su, you old hag, just you wait. Sooner or later, I'll get my hands on every last penny of your savings. Let's see who will take care of you when you're sick and dying in bed. I responded with a smile. Due to the negative impact, though no substantial harm was caused, they were detained for 15 days at the police station. These past 15 days have been incredibly pleasant for me. I signed up for a cooking class, picking up the hobby I had set aside for many years. My father was a former chef for state banquets, and growing up under his influence, I also learned excellent culinary skills. However, after getting married, for the sake of my family and for Tao Ziyi, I gave up my career and became a housewife for over 20 years. I spent almost all my time in the kitchen, repeatedly flipping through and practicing the yellowed recipe notes left by my father. I practiced my knife skills until blisters formed on my hands, yet I never stopped. Once, an old master saw me standing in front of the stove for 6 hours, constantly adjusting the heat and sauce to recreate a traditional hanging roasted chicken. The final result had crispy skin and tender meat, leaving even him in awe. These days, there are too few people willing to put in such painstaking effort while also having talent. At the end of the course, he solemnly called me into his office and asked if I would be willing to become his final disciple and help run his private kitchen. He said that my cooking carried the shadow of my father, but also my own unyielding resilience. I gladly agreed. This was an excellent opportunity. People in Lu Wanqiu's circle love to flaunt their taste the most. Being able to eat the dishes prepared by this master chef is a source of pride for them, and I am about to become the one who cooks for them. I heard that in the detention center, Lu Wanqiu got into a fight with Wen Jin. She scratched his face and cursed him as a useless good-for-nothing who couldn't even handle an old woman. Wen Jin, in turn, scolded her as a troublemaker, blaming everything on her insatiable greed. The stock price of the Wen family's company plummeted due to the scandal, throwing everything into chaos. The most dramatic part was Tao Ziyi, the newlywed daughter-in-law, in collusion with her husband's biological mother, pressured her own mother to hand over her late husband's inheritance. When unsuccessful, they resorted to robbery and were ultimately arrested. This news became the biggest gossip in our third-tier small city. Tao Ziyi was completely famous. Now, her socialite friends immediately distanced themselves from her. Beneath her previous social media posts were nothing but mockery and people kicking her while she was down. LOL. I thought she was really a wealthy socialite. Turns out she's just a gold digger. The Whole family is a bunch of weirdos, obsessed with money, feels sorry for her mom for a second, raising such a thing. I looked at those comments, feeling completely unmoved. 15 days later, they were released. That very afternoon, I received a summons from the court. Tao Zi had sued me. He accused me of illegally seizing his father's inheritance and demanded a redivision of the property. When I received the summons, I was in the kitchen experimenting with a new dish. Buddha jumps over the wall. I laughed out loud as I read the contents of the summons. What a wonderful daughter I have, always managing to push the boundaries of my expectations. She probably thought that using the law to pressure me would make me afraid and force me to compromise. Unfortunately, she miscalculated. When my husband passed away, all the assets he left behind were clearly stated in the will, to be inherited solely by me. This will was notarized and holds legal validity. At that time, Tao Zi was still a minor, and the will also specified that all her upbringing and education expenses would be borne by me until she graduated from university. Not only did I do it, but I did it well. Since she was a child, has she ever been lacking in food, clothing, or daily necessities compared to others? She wants to sue me. It's simply a fool's dream. On the day of the trial, I specifically took half a day off. In the courtroom, I saw their family of 3 once again. It had only been a little over half a month, yet all 3 of them looked much more haggard. The thick layer of powder on Lu Wanchio's face couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. When Jean kept his head down, not daring to look at me, Tao Zi stood in the plaintiff's seat, wearing heavy makeup and dressed in designer clothes, but the outfit hung loose and oversized on her, as if she couldn't quite fill it out. The lawyer she hired was a top-tier attorney brought in at great expense by the Wen family, known for his skill in twisting the truth. In court, he delivered an impassioned speech, portraying her as a pitiful daughter who had lacked love since childhood, was mentally controlled by her mother, and was even denied her father's inheritance. Meanwhile, I was painted as a selfish, greedy mother who hoarded my husband's estate and neglected my daughter. He even produced my recent spending records, pointing at the watch on my wrist and the bag in the entryway, claiming that I was recklessly squandering money that should have belonged to my daughter, living a lavish lifestyle while turning a blind eye to her struggles. Your Honor, what my client wants is not money, but justice, a fair share of the love she deserves from her father. Some people in the gallery, unaware of the truth, began pointing fingers at me. I remained silent throughout, listening quietly, until the judge asked me if I had anything to defend. I then stood up and submitted to the court the notarized will of my husband, which I had prepared long ago, along with the bank statements of all the expenses I had paid for Tao Zi over the years. It was a thick stack, with every transaction clearly recorded, from her kindergarten tuition to a designer bag she bought during her university years. When Tao Zi's lawyer saw the notarized will, he couldn't control his expression. He clearly hadn't expected such a thing to exist. Tao Zi even stood up excitedly. Impossible, my dad would never do this. The judge rapped the gavel. Plaintiff, please remain quiet. As a result, the court dismissed all of Tao Zi's claims. As I was leaving the courthouse, Tao Zi chased after me, blocking my path and shouting in frustration, why is even my dad siding with you? Why does he get to give all the money to you alone? Because your father knew that if the money was given to me, you could at least grow up safely. If it was given directly to you, you might not have lived to adulthood. She staggered back a step, her face deathly pale. Lin Su, go ahead and cling to that bit of money. I curse you to die alone, with no one by your side when you die, rotting and stinking in your house. After saying this, she turned and ran. Lu Wanchio and Wen Jin didn't follow her. They just stood there in the distance, watching me with cold, dark eyes. I didn't care. Back at the private kitchen, the old master saw I was in a good mood and teased, won the lawsuit. I nodded. Won, that's good. The old master handed me the palm leaf fan in his hand. We have a distinguished guest tonight. The Wen family has reserved a table, saying they want to make amends. My hand, which had taken the fan, paused for a moment. I never expected the so-called apology banquet from the Wen family to be such a grand affair. The person who came was Lu Wanchio's husband, Wen Mingshan, a shrewd-looking man in his 50s, accompanied by several friends who appeared to be of considerable status. The master personally received them and introduced me to the group. This is Master Lin, my final disciple. She will be in charge of all the dishes tonight. When Wen Mingshan saw me, his eyes flickered briefly before quickly returning to normal. He proactively extended his hand. Master Lin, I have long heard of your reputation. My ignorant child and my wife have offended you before, and I apologize on their behalf here. I did not shake his hand, merely nodding. You are too polite, Mr. Wen. the atmosphere became somewhat awkward for a moment. One of the friends he brought along tried to smooth things over, saying, "Old one, you just don't get it. True masters all have their own temperaments. We're here to savor the food, not to build relationships." When Ming Shan took the opportunity to step down from the awkward situation, saying, "Yes, you're absolutely right, Master Lin. We'll be eagerly awaiting your culinary skills," I turned and headed into the kitchen, gathering all my focus, calming my mind, and began to cook. One exquisite dish after another was sent out by the food runners from the private rooms outside. Exclamations and praises could be heard from time to time. "This Longjing tea-infused shrimp is absolutely amazing. The shrimp is sweet, tender, and springy, with a subtle fragrance of tea. This boiled cabbage in clear broth is incredible. The soup is crystal clear yet rich in flavor without being greasy. This is true culinary skill." When Ming Shan's friends couldn't stop praising my cooking skills, he himself was also beaming with pride. Raising his glass again and again, "I told you, the person recommended by Master Wang definitely wouldn't disappoint." After several rounds of drinks and a variety of dishes, the old master was being pestered by Wen Mingshan's friend for advice on health preservation. When Mingshan, holding a wine glass, walked alone into the back kitchen, I was preparing the final dessert. "Master Lin, your skills truly live up to your reputation," he said, standing behind me. I didn't turn around. "You flatter me, Mr. Wen. I wonder if Master Lin would be interested in exploring new opportunities elsewhere. I own a 5-star hotel that's currently in need of a Chinese cuisine executive chef like you. The annual salary and benefits are entirely up to you to decide." I placed the finished dessert on a plate, garnished it with mint leaves, and then turned to face him. "Mr. Wen, do you think I look like the kind of lowly chef who would stoop for a few bushels of rice? Your 5-star hotel, I doubt it even compares to the ventilation system in my kitchen. Let me tell you, Wen Mingshan, I am the master here, a legend, and as for your lousy hotel, I wouldn't even deign to take a shit there." When Mingshan's expression gradually darkened, "Master Lin, it's wise to leave some room for others. You never know when you might cross paths again. Our Wen family still carries some weight in Jiangqing. It's always better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Is that so? But I've heard that the Wen family's stock price has been falling for half a month straight, losing nearly 9 figures. I smiled, wiped my hands, and looked him straight in the eyes. "I also heard that your biggest European client, the precision instrument order from that Han's cat country, made it into the local social news because of your family scandal, and they cancelled the cooperation overnight. That order was worth 30 million euros, wasn't it, Mr. Wen? You must be overwhelmed by bank collection calls right now, aren't you? How do you still have the leisure to come to my humble place to poach a chef? He pointed at me, too angry to speak. "Instead of wasting time here with me, you'd be better off thinking about how to save your company. Don't mess with me, or I won't mind making sure you don't even get to do a losing deal." He gave me a sinister glance, then turned and slammed the door on his way out. After Wen Mingshan's banquet with hidden motives failed, they quieted down for a while. My private kitchen restaurant is doing better and better. There were even wealthy businessmen from out of town who flew in on private jets just to have a meal I prepared. The title, Master Lin, had completely spread throughout the upper-class circles of Jiangqing. I became the mysterious, well-connected, and skilled woman they spoke of. No one knew my past. They only knew that those who could get me to cook personally were either wealthy or influential. The shift in identity is quite interesting. However, life for Tao Ziyi and the Wen family was becoming increasingly difficult. The Wen family's company was beset with internal and external troubles, leaving Wen Mingshan overwhelmed and stressed. Lu Wanqiu went everywhere praying to gods and Buddhas, hoping to change her luck. When Jean was completely dispirited, drowning his sorrows in alcohol all day long, Tao Ziyi became the punching bag for all of them. When Mingshan resented her, if it weren't for the scene she had caused back then, the Wen family wouldn't have become a laughingstock and lost important clients. Lu Wanqiu cursed her as a jinx, saying that since she had entered the Wen family's door, nothing good had happened at home. When Jean even went so far as to either beat or scold her, venting all his frustrations onto her. All this news was told to me by Tao Ziyi herself, crying over the phone. She somehow got hold of my new number. Every day, she calls me at the same time. At first, it was curses and threats. "Lin Su, you heartless old witch, you ruined me like this." "Do you laugh secretly every night?" "I'm miserable. And you won't be any better off. Let me tell you, you'd better pray to the gods every day and hope you don't get hit by a car when you go out, or else all that inheritance of yours will be mine." I never hang up, and I never speak, I just put it on speakerphone, preparing ingredients while listening to her vent. After a while, even she gets tired of cursing, and her tone shifts as she starts playing the victim. Mom, I miss you so much, I was wrong, I really was. When Jean hit me again, look, my arm is all bruised. She would send some photos covered in bruises. My mother-in-law scolded me again today. She said if the company goes bankrupt, she'll make me go entertain guests to pay off the debts. Mom, please save me, I really can't go on living anymore. She cried her heart out, as if she truly had nowhere left to turn. She was just trying to use my sympathy to drag me back into that quagmire of hers. Unfortunately, I am no longer the soft-hearted Lin Su from my previous life. One day, she called again, sounding in a good mood. Mom, we're saved. When Jean found out some news, our old neighborhood is going to be demolished. I heard the compensation is really high. Mom, your house could get at least 7 or 8 million yuan. She excitedly planned for the future, as if the money was already in her hands. Mom, this is a chance from heaven, a chance for us mother and daughter to reconcile. As long as you get the demolition compensation, just give me half. No, 1/3 will do. I'll divorce Wen Jean right away. This money will be enough to pay off the Wen family's debts, and we can start over, just the two of us. Don't you want your daughter back? I didn't interrupt her, quietly listening as she finished her beautiful dream. A few days after hanging up the phone, when Jean began to take action, he no longer harassed me directly but instead contacted several of my former mahjong friends. Pretending to be concerned about me, he told them that I was living alone and had undergone a drastic change in temperament, and that he and his wife were very worried I might be deceived. He hoped my old friends could help persuade me not to make a foolish mistake regarding the house. He even went to the neighborhood committee of my previous residential area, crying and pleading with tears and snot, claiming that Tao Zi had been driven out of the house by me and was now relying on the compensation money to survive, trying to pressure the committee into intervening. Those old neighbors had long been taken care of by me, with gifts never missing during holidays. Upon hearing his words, they instead called to warn me, telling me to be careful of this ungrateful couple. As for the tabloid journalist he hired, before they could even conduct an interview, my current business partner made a call to warn them, and the article was stillborn. It wasn't until she called again, furious and demanding. Lin Su, what exactly did you say to those neighbors? Why won't any of them help me? Is that so? My voice was calm. Tao Zi, have you forgotten? That apartment was transferred to me after my husband passed away. The property rights belong to me, and I paused, looking through the kitchen window at the construction site that had just started outside. Moreover, you got the news too slowly. I already signed the demolition agreement last week. The compensation plan isn't cash, it's a property swap. I exchanged that old, run-down apartment for a large, fully renovated flat in the city center. All the procedures are posted on the notice board at the street office. You can go check for yourself. After a long, long time, Tao Zi's heart-wrenching scream came through. Lin Su, how dare you? That was the last time I ever received a call from her. I moved into the large, renovated flat in the city center. The over 200 square meter apartment offers an excellent view, overlooking the night scenery of half of Jiangqing. I converted one of the largest rooms into my new kitchen. It is equipped with all kinds of top-tier kitchen appliances. I entrusted the private kitchen business to another apprentice trained by the master chef. I started taking only the most high-end custom banquet orders, and my life was thriving. As for the Wen family, their capital chain broke, their stocks became worthless, and the bank came knocking to collect debts. When Mingshan's hair turned white overnight, in order to preserve the last of his assets, he chose to divorce Lu Wanqiu, pushing all the debts onto her. And Wen Jean, the spoiled young master, couldn't bear the pain of falling from the clouds. He began to torment Tao Zi even more relentlessly, until one day, the neighbors, unable to endure the daily domestic violence and arguments, called the police. When the police arrived, Tao Zi was beaten half to death, curled up on the cold floor. Her face was swollen high, her eyes so puffed up they were reduced to mere slits, and a trace of blood still clung to the corner of her mouth. Bruises, a mix of blue and purple, spread from her arms all the way down to her calves. Her hair was as messy as a bird's nest, her clothes torn and tattered, leaving her in a state of utter disarray. When Jean was arrested on the spot, when the news spread throughout Jiangqing, I was in the midst of preparing for a charity gala. The old master handed me the phone, and the front page headline was about the Wen family's bankruptcy and Wen Jean being sentenced for intentional assault. In the photo, Tao Zi lay in a hospital bed, her face wrapped in bandages, her eyes vacant. The old master sighed. What a tragedy. I looked at that photo, feeling no ripple of emotion in my heart. All of this was her own choice, from the moment she publicly humiliated me at the wedding for money, to later kneeling and begging me, then hurling insults at me out of greed, and finally suing me in court in an attempt to take everything from me. Her fate was already sealed. The dinner party was a success. The host was a very prestigious entrepreneur's wife, who publicly took my hand and thanked me for my contributions to charity. Under the flashlights, I smiled with ease and elegance. Suddenly, I remembered my previous life. After Tao Ziyi was left with nothing, she also lay in a hospital bed like this. I sold my only house to scrape together enough for her medical expenses. After she was discharged from the hospital, she didn't utter a single word of gratitude. Instead, she blamed me for not giving her the money sooner, causing her to miss the chance to make a fortune. Then, using the money I gave her to recuperate, she went on another spending spree, trying to attach herself to a new man. In this new life, I simply took back the life that was rightfully mine. After Tao Ziyi was discharged from the hospital, she came to see me once at the entrance of my new home. That day, I happened to be going out, having made plans with a few friends to play golf. I was dressed in a sharp athletic outfit. Looking refreshed and energetic, she was wearing old clothes that had been washed to a pale color, with dry, yellowish hair, so thin she was almost unrecognizable, and the scars on her face only looked somewhat menacing in the sunlight. She froze when she saw me. She walked toward me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something. I didn't stop, heading straight for my car. The driver had already opened the car door for me. Mom. I got into the car and, before closing the door, gave her a contemptuous glance, my tone icy. I'm not your mom, don't dirty my ears. The car slowly drove away. From the rearview mirror, I saw her still standing there. A friend beside me asked, Sister Lin, who was that just now? I shook my head. Someone I don't know. After that, Tao Ziyi never appeared again. I heard she went to work at an electronics factory in the south, spending over 12 hours a day on the assembly line, her hands calloused from the work. Some also say she found a construction contractor over 20 years older than her, with yellow-stained teeth, who keeps her in a handshake building in an urban village, where even buying groceries requires keeping accounts. There are many rumors, but none of them concern me anymore. It is said that Lu Wanqiu, burdened with massive debt, has been restricted from high-end consumption, and all the properties under her name have been auctioned off. She now rents a dim basement, making a living by taking odd jobs. Occasionally, someone would see her at the vegetable market, holding onto the vendor's scale for a 2-cent difference in the price of scallions. Gone was the graceful and generous demeanor she once had. A few more years passed. My career continued to grow, and I even began to venture into the field of restaurant investments. I became the legend that others spoke of. On my birthday, I threw a grand party at my private estate. The place was packed with guests. After several rounds of drinks, the old master raised his glass and came over to me. He had drunk a bit too much, his eyes sparkling brightly. Girl, you've really come to understand life now. I smiled and clinked glasses with him. Thanks for your kind words. Halfway through the party, the butler hurried over and whispered a few words in my ear. He said there was a woman at the manor gate claiming to be my daughter, wanting to come in. She made a fuss for a long time and just wouldn't leave. I frowned and walked to the monitoring room, where I saw Tao Ziyi on the screen. She looked much older than she had a few years ago, dressed in cheap clothes, her face etched with the hardships of life. Beside her stood a little girl of about 5 or 6, timidly tugging at the hem of her clothes. My gaze lingered on the child's face for a moment. Those eyes looked so much like hers when she was little. She stood before the door camera, holding a crudely wrapped cake in her arms, calling out again and again, Mom, it's Ziyi, let me in, I'll kowtow to you. I've brought my daughter to wish you a happy birthday. I stared at the screen for a long time, that fleeting moment of distraction quickly fading away. Have security escort her out, and make sure she never comes near this place again. The butler nodded and withdrew. I returned to the lively party, continuing to chat and laugh with my friends. Someone asked me where I had just been. I raised my wine glass and said with a smile, I went to deal with an insignificant old matter. The fireworks that night were beautiful. They bloomed brilliantly in the night sky, then vanished into nothingness, just like my long-abandoned past. My life, the moment I decided to put down the teacup and take out that $1, had already turned to a brand new chapter. As for Tao Ziyi, will she regret it? Where will her life lead? I don't know, nor do I want to know. Everyone's path is chosen by themselves. Seek benevolence and you will attain it. That's all there is to it. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section, looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.